Okay. Welcome to the regular board meeting of February 15th, 2024. It is now 4:07. I see there are members of the public who would like to provide public comment, and so we will do that. Members of the public may participate and comment as follows. In-person public comment may be made in person in the boardroom by filling out a public speaker request form located at the entrance of the meeting room. On Zoom, you may raise your virtual hand to request to speak and offer a comment in real time. You will have 2 minutes to speak. You may also submit comments electronically online before or during the meeting with the 1,000 character limit by accessing the agenda link to the form on the district's homepage. Please reference the agenda number in your written comment. Please note, regular and special meetings of the Board of Trustees and board study sessions are streamed live on meeting nights and are also available for viewing the day after the meeting by accessing the district's YouTube channel listed on the district's webpage at www.esuhsd.org under the Quick Links section. The board is not able to respond to items that are not on the agenda or any personal issues. Oh, gosh. Thank you. Your comment will be read into the record and will be directed to the superintendent and or the appropriate staff member for response. Interpretation of this meeting in Spanish and Vietnamese can be heard by accessing the link and following the instructions shown on the agenda and the district's website. And we do have translation here. And before we hear from our speakers, I'm going to pause and take a step back and take roll call. Mary, would you please?
President Cortese,
I'm here.
Vice President Joe,
I'm also here.
Clerk Lay. Here. Member Herrera,
Here.
Member Chavez.
Present.
Thank you. Back to my actual scripts here. All right, so we do have some speakers and I will begin with Atru. Would you please come into, to our podium? Oh, do you need a translator? Would you like a translator? You're okay. Okay, thank you.
Dear member of the school board, on November, I sent mail to all of you, a letter about the principal, YB High School. And I got the letter back from Superintendent Glenn Vander Z back to me. It's on November 2, on November 16, 2023. And so far, we would like to update what the invitation status. That's all I wanted to mention. Thank you for listening to me. Bye.
Help to make clear as they speak if they have to.
Sure, we did mention 2 minutes. Huang Hua? Thank you, sir. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Superintendent and the Board of Trustees. My name is Wang Hua. I come here today to strongly support the YB principle, as well as your clear, impartial decision and the loyalty to the board's policy of the fairness and justice to the YB case involving the YB principle. I urge you to reconsider the authority of the board member that was suspected of violating the district's policy. If she has enough credibility, impartiality, and fairness to vote or make any remarks on the principal's personal and career documents during the decision-making motions relating to the YB case, I urge you to reconsider and delete in time any of the remarks, critics, notes of this board member on behalf of the governing board on the principal's personal and career documents because of her suspected violating the district's policy. We seek clarification on why the identified problem has not been resolved and the underlying reasons for its persistence. Based on the statement, I urge you to seek clarification on why, if exists any identified problem, has not been resolved and the underlying reasons for its persistence. It is imperative that this issue is addressed prior to reaching a final decision. I urge you to strongly support the YB High School and the East Side community by restoring the honor and moral image of the YB principal for her dedicated works towards the education of the young generations of the East Side community. Thank you.
Thank you. And a reminder that the board is not able to respond to items that are not on the agenda or any personnel matters. And thank you for not mentioning names. Next speaker is Thuong Wang.
Tôi là Thượng Hoàng, tôi muốn có một người thông dịch lại, tôi sẽ nói bằng tiếng Việt. Thưa ông Tổng Giám đốc học khu ESUHSD, thưa quý vị trong ủy viên học khu ESUHSD.
And the board members.
Chúng tôi trước tiên cảm ơn cô thông dịch lại cho tôi nói bằng tiếng Việt. Cảm ơn. Kính thưa quý vị, có thể nói đây là lần thứ hai chúng tôi trở lại đây.
It's the second time that I returned here.
Tại vì chúng tôi muốn quý vị trong học khu cũng như ông Tổng Giám đốc có những quyết định đứng đắn về những vấn đề liên quan về những thành viên giáo dục trong học khu ESUHSD.
I would like to have the superintendent and the board trustees to have accurate measure in dealing with a board member.
Bản thân chúng tôi cũng như quý vị ở đây, chúng ta đang sống trên một đất nước tự do, thì chúng ta cần có sự công bằng và bác ái cũng như là giá trị về giáo dục.
We're living in a free and democratic country, so we need to have equity, fairness in education.
Cô hiệu trưởng trường Trung học YB là một trong những cô hiệu trưởng mà theo đánh giá của chúng tôi.
The principal at Yabana is one of the best principals that we have.
Đã đưa đường trường Trung học YB càng ngày càng tiến bộ và những học sinh học ở trường YB càng ngày càng tiến bộ về học vấn và giáo dục.
She has helped Yabana students to improve and achieve academically and get better.
Chúng tôi cầu mong quý vị đang ngồi trên ghế ủy viên học khu và đưa ra những quyết định đứng đắn và trả lại danh dự cho những ai đã mất danh dự.
We expect the board trustees to restore the reputation to those who might lose it.
Cảm ơn quý vị rất nhiều và chúc quý vị một năm mới tràn đầy sức khỏe và hạnh phúc với gia đình.
Thank you very much, and I wish you a new year with happiness and prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Tan No.
Good afternoon. My name is Ton Ngo. I am a Chief Executive of Thủ Đức Officer of the Republic of Vietnam. My association is work here for 24 years, and my organization is a non-profit organization. Today we come here. First, I want to thank on the trustee of the high school, East High School, the upon Vietnamese woman, the principal of the Giặc Papua High School. I am the former officer of the Republic of Vietnam. I'm spent 7 years in prison. I know, I understand. My children have many trouble and live under communist regime. Mr. Hill is the daughter of my friend. She is the daughter of my lieutenant in infantry in Vietnam. She come here and she work hard. She study and become the school teacher. And now the trustee upon her is the principal of the Giặc Papua. I am very happy. I mean, thank you on the board trustee support her. I want you treat her same appropriate people here, and because you know in San Jose now they have many problems, many other different. So please careful when you decide a matter. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, do we have any online? And anyone on Zoom? Yeah. Just please come and state your name for the record.
Hello, everyone. My name is Min Huang. I am a young member of the Vietnamese community in Northern California, and also a descendant of a organization in Northern California. I am a person who is really close to Ms. Paulette. So, Ms. Paulette, I just want to say Ms. Paulette is a children of former veterans of the Republic of Vietnam before 1975. She immigrated here with her family during the 1990s. She is a person who is well trusted, and for myself, I have worked with her since she was running for Evergreen district. So I just want to encourage, she deserves to be the principal of YB High School. And myself, and I'm sure everyone sitting down there, we all strongly support her, no matter what. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I think that is all our public speaking on this matter. So now the board will recess to close session. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Is this on? You can hear it? Okay. Thank you for your patience, everybody. We are back from our closed session, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. So welcome to the regular board meeting of February 15th, 2024. Members of the public, please submit your public comment as follows. So if you're here in person, public comment may be made in the boardroom by filling out a public speaker request form. Looks like this. They're located by the door. There's a light yellow color for students and a goldenrod for anyone who's not a student. And that's because we like to hear the students first so they can get on with their evening and go do homework or whatever they need to do. If you're on Zoom, you may raise your virtual hand to request to speak and offer your comment in real time, and you will have 2 minutes to speak. If you're also participating online, you may you may choose to submit a comment before or during the meeting in accessing the agenda link in the form on the to the form on the district's homepage, and there's a 1,000-character limit to those online written comments. Please reference the agenda number in your written comment, or if you're filling out one of these, please reference the agenda number so we know where and when you want to speak. Please note that regular and special meetings of the Board of Trustees and board study sessions are streamed live on meeting nights and are also available for viewing the day after the meeting by accessing the district's YouTube channel listed on the district's webpage at www.esuhsd.org under the Quick Links section. The board is not able to respond to items that are not on the agenda or any personnel issues. Your comment will be read into the record and will be directed to the superintendent and/or appropriate staff member for response. Interpretation of this meeting in Spanish and Vietnamese can be heard by accessing the link and following the instructions shown on the agenda and the district's website. And I happen to know those are written in those languages on the website, so people need that. Hopefully they will find that. Okay, let us move on to 5.01. This is where the superintendent or board members may request that items be removed from the agenda for consideration or carried to a future board meeting. And I don't believe there's anything we're removing. Is that right, Superintendent? Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to part that I love, special board recognition. And tonight we have the distinct honor of recognizing student organizers of the Santa Clara Valley Model United Nations Conference 2024, which happened just last month. And I make it out there every year because it's just extraordinary to see almost 1,000 students gather at Santa Teresa High School to debate international issues and represent various countries, and it's just incredible to see these students in action. And so, Superintendent, would you please introduce the students who will be honoring or recognizing tonight?
Well, before we introduce the students, could we have, there's a lot of adults over there at Santa Teresa that make this event pay off, and one of those is Mr. Phipps. Could you come up and tell us a little bit about what work, before we honor these students, what's the work that they've done to put together an event that truly served over 1,000 students?
Thank you very much for the time and the recognition. We greatly appreciate it at Santa Teresa High School. I've been working on this project for 23 years in my career. And it's the best thing I do as a teacher, see students grow as leaders, as humans. They run a business, essentially. They recruit schools. They communicate with faculty advisors. They create substantive programming that is relevant and challenging as they address global issues that they're going to have to grapple with in real time as they mature as adults. They're dealing with an enormous amount of responsibility while at the same time managing all their normal school affairs and their sports and their other activities and their commitments to their families. And so it is a great honor for me to work with them. They are, as I've said, incredible human beings. So it's a year of hard work. We started already planning for next year's, the Monday after the conference. And even though I think that the conference was an incredible success, they came back in our subsequent meeting and already identified things that they wanted to tweak, to improve, to make the conference even better. And so for me, it's constant learning in real time, and I'm just so very proud of them. And I just want to thank you all for your support. I know that you've been generous with your support, giving us approval for field trips, giving us support through technology. Randy Phelps was an incredible support as well, as was Omar and Merce and Earl. And then, of course, the Santa Teresa admin team, who have always been generous with their support. So thank you all.
All right, thank you. No, 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 don't go anywhere. Stay up there, stay up there. Turner, there you go. All right. So what's amazing, you're not just getting award for, your work in the Model United Nations. What was the phrase? You get the award for being incredible human beings. Check that out. Very cool. All right. So if we could have come up and if you could just line up for now, we'll get your certificates and we'll take photos after. But if you could join join your friend up here and your organizer and thought partner, that'd be great. So we'd like to recognize the student organizers of the Santa Clara Valley Model United Nations Conference 2024. Let's give it up for Arushi Arya, the Secretary General. Check that out. Kim Lei, the Director General. Nandini Vijayakumar of USG of Finances. Sophia Chen, USG of Records. Teddy Nguyen, USG of Training. Aparna Jayasankar, USG of Public Relations. Giovanni Lima, USG of Delegational Affairs. And I think these four people were running around solving everybody's problems. Aditha Sethi, Samrita Mishra, Elise Beal, and Stuti Puranik. Come on up. All right, so you understand that these students already know how to organize because they lined up in a way that wouldn't block the board. Look at that. But at this point, board, if you'd like to make any comments, that'd be great. Otherwise, we'll come down, get a photo, and give each of them their individual certificates. Let's do it. All right, why don't you come on in here to the center?
We have a comment first. Let's hear the
I'm
board share their
excited
accolades.
for you that you have had this experience, excited for you, Mr. Teacher, that you've been doing this for so long. It brings back memories for me in the last century when I was in Oberfeld High School. We did the Model United Nations and I was a part, forgot which role I had, but I can still picture and feel myself on the stage at the room, that the multipurpose room that Oberfeld has, doing the United Nations thing. And it was really mind expanding and what have you. So congratulations to each of you. You're really, this is a growth experience that you'll remember. Thank you.
I just want to say that I'm very proud of East Side students, especially those one that has put this conference together. Congratulations.
Okay, well, I rained my praises over you earlier because this is not something I don't miss because it's just so extraordinary to see it. They even did it on Zoom during COVID. It was extraordinary. So anyway, let's take a picture.
Hey, parents, feel free. You don't have to take the time to come on out and take your picture.
Well, and Mr. Phipps, I just want to say, you know, our students turn over every 4 years, and you've been doing this for 23, you said. I mean, thank you for keeping it alive. Your dedication is an inspiration to us and to all of them. Fantastic. Thank you.
So continue to be an incredible human being. Thank you very much.
All right, very good. We're going to move on to 7.01, which is our opportunity to hear from our student board liaison. Will share with us the summary of our student governing board meeting on Monday.
Hello. On Monday's Student Governing Board meeting, we took team pictures to update our Instagram at ESUHSD or ESUHSD.SGB. We'll be utilizing this platform more often and frequently posting new resources and infographics. We also assigned leaders to new projects, such as a collaboration with Silver Creek High School's YAB Mental Health and Wellness Group, and celebrated the addition of more AP class options at certain schools. The Student Governing Board will continue working on these projects and hopefully check off some more of our short-term goals before the year comes to an end. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, 8.01 is our opportunity to take a look at our agenda and see if we want to move anything around based on the length of anticipated presentations. And Superintendent, I think you've got some suggestions.
We've got some suggestions tonight. All right. So after 8.01, which is right now, we'd like to do 15.01, then 12.01, then 8.02. Thanks to my friends in the back there for coming. And then 12.02.
Okay, so we're going to do 15.01.
Correct.
Then, what was the next one?
12.01,
12.01. Okay, just want to cross.
then 8.02,
8.02,
and then 12.02.
12.02. Okay,
All right. Thank you very much.
thank you. So with that recommendation, we will move to 15.01, which is a discussion and or action to approve proposed amendments to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee bylaws. And so I'd like to call forth the chairperson of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, Dr. Barry Schimmel.
Thank you, Board Chair, and good evening, Board Superintendent. My name is Barry Schimmel, and I'm this year's Chair of the Bond Oversight Committee. And the committee is presenting to the board for their consideration some changes to the bylaws. The first one is on page 1. If you look at the lower right-hand corner, there's one word that we'd like to include, which is called independent. There was quite a bit of discussion about the Bond Oversight Committee being an independent group. It does provide some advantages. One of the advantages is in future bond measures, the community will know that there's an independent group looking at this, as well as your paid auditors. Then on page 3, we've added number 16, and 16 talks about having a copy of the annual independent audit that you're required to do by law to the group at the same time it's submitted to the district or before March 31st. And the feeling was there that quite often the committee was not getting to take a look at it till after the fiscal year was already over. And the group does a great job of looking at things and is very, very involved. So they wanted to recommend to you that we receive the audit at the same time that the board receives it. There's no action that would be taken. And then if we go down to the last section, under number 1, we started something a couple of years ago called an alternate member. And as you recall, maybe 5-8 years ago, we had trouble filling all the slots. That's not the case anymore. This is a very active committee. In fact, once in a while, the assistant superintendent, Dr. Antoon, and I will have to kind of pull him back and say, we're sticking with the bond. You're jumping into areas that is not within your purview. And they're great about understanding that, but they have so much enthusiasm that they want to do things. So they feel that having two alternate members would be a benefit. And the reason that we think that is a couple of our alternate members are now serving as members. And it provides them a training ground because it's pretty hard to come in at the first meeting and, you know, what's going on. And we think that will be a benefit to have more active members and more people involved in the community. And so those are the changes we're recommending for your consideration. Dr. Huntoon and the group met through this, and we thank her for her leadership. And the group works really well together in balancing. But this is a very growing group and very involved in the community and will be very supportive of the next bond, and telling the citizens that, yes, we're watching your money. Any questions I might answer for the board?
Questions, anyone?
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you for your service. We couldn't do this kind of work without, you know, I mean, the voters in this district has been so generous with us, and it's because of the work in your committee that has made that possible. So
Well, thank you. All of them are very, very active. We can interchange places and we don't miss a beat. We give a lot of credit to the staff. Julio Lucas is always very good about sharing different kinds of things with us. An example of that would be they were talking about deferred maintenance, which has nothing to do with the bond group. But because of this class, he'll share with us information that they might want to know about that as it relates. So it's a really inner-working group, and we're real proud of it. Thank you.
Fantastic. So I'm just looking for a motion. Oh, thank you. Yes, we can acknowledge.
Do we need a motion here?
Yeah, yes, we have to accept the,
The first
Oh, the
reading.
bylaws.
oh, this is a first reading? No. Discussion or action to approve. Yeah.
Amendments. to
Yes,
approve the
amendments.
So move to approve the amendments?
Okay, I have a motion by Chavez and a second by Lay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Emily?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we've got Emily on the record and then everybody else is an aye? Okay, that's unanimous then. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming tonight. Okay. All right, very good. Now we'll move to 12.02, which is a presentation and or discussion regarding school site progress and program highlights. We love these. So we're welcoming tonight the principal of Calera High School, Liz Gutierrez.
Good evening, Board President Cortese, Superintendent Vanderzee, and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to share Calero's highlights and our goals this evening. We believe at Calero in equitable communities, welcoming all students as they are, knowing and supporting their strengths and areas of growth, responding positively to the needs of every student, and helping our students engage with tasks that give them, prepare them for full participation in their communities. I am personally grateful for the MTSS structure that we have at our site with the care team and the other meetings that we hold at our site for MTSS, and I'll be talking about those a little bit later in this presentation. I'd like to skip to our theory of action. If we, the Calero staff, embody, model, and teach compassion, respect, responsibility, and expect results, our students will then experience safety and love in their school environment and in turn demonstrate growth. We adhere to this value system in order for our students to recover credits, build successful habits, and develop a plan for a viable future beyond graduation. So the mission at Calero for our students is we support them to recover credits. So every student that comes to our school is behind in credits. Some come with 0 credits. We support them to build positive habits and plan for a successful future. We have a promise to our parents. We promise our parents that we will keep their students safe, that we will love them, and that their students or their children will grow at Calero, both academically and social emotionally. We offer a comprehensive college prep education in a nurturing small learning environment. We provide opportunities for credit recovery, career pathways through SBCTE, and college readiness. And we're a school of choice. We're not a continuation school, and that's something that's often, I don't know, miscommunicated or people think we are. And so we, our students to graduate, they need 220 credits, just like the large comprehensive sites. We have an A to G default, which just means that we encourage our students to not only redo the classes that they failed, but also their Ds, so they can be A to G ready. And we have a 7-hour day. So we have a long day, just like the bigger schools. Our target population are students who did not succeed in the larger comprehensive schools. They're down in credits. We have a lot of students that were truant, and students also that had anxiety end up doing really well at our site. And we focus on connecting students to our school. Okay, so now the data here. So on the left of the line, it's our entire campus. So we're one school with 2 programs. We have the high school and also the adult transition program on our site. So about 300 students with both programs and about 80 staff members with both programs. To the right of the line, it's all high school data, and I want to focus on that tonight because we're talking A to G and graduation, and that's for the high school. So I started with where are our students coming from? And as you can see, they come from all over the district. Some students take 2 to 3 buses to get to us. The majority of our students come from Andrew Hill and Oak Grove. We have 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. And the numbers that you see for our students, that was a snapshot of first semester. Since the start of second semester, we actually have lost 13 students. 9 of them went back to their homeschool, so they caught up in credits, and they were able to go back to their homeschool and graduate with their friends. So it's a win for them, but we're sad that they left us. And
Well, it's not really a loss. It's
not a loss.
success, right?
It
It's
is
amazing.
success for them, but like we're sad,
Yeah, they left. Okay.
And so, and then 2 students went to continuation schools and 2 went to adult ed. And so since then we've added 11. So the numbers, day to day, +1, -1, it's fluid. We have about 90% of our students are Hispanic. We have 1/3 of our students that are long-term English learners, and 2/3 of our students are socioeconomically disadvantaged. So the data that I'll be looking at tonight, it's our 4-year data. It's the A to G completion rate and graduation rate, and we're targeting all students because we're so small. Our 1-year data is the attendance rate, again, targeting all students, and our ongoing one-time data is the EWS, the early warning system data from the Illuminate reports, and we're going to be targeting the students who show a need in attendance, behavior, and grades. So these 2 graphs show well, the first one on the left shows our graduation rate compared to Eastside as a whole. And as you can see, our graduation rate is really high compared to the district. And I'm super proud of this, not only because our students are getting caught up in credits, but they're all graduating. Well, not all of them, but it's pretty high. And it's going to continue to be a focus for us. On the right, it's our A to G completion, and the orange is Calero and the yellow is the district. So we have a lot of work to do. And so that's something that we're focusing on specifically this year. The actions for these, we have credit recovery embedded in our school day. So every day after lunch, all of our students go to a credit recovery class, and they're working on an online program. We've switched from Cyber High to Edgenuity, and that's actually helped us in the sense that there are more A to G courses available in Edgenuity. So there's more opportunity to get A to G eligible for our students. And again, we're encouraging them to redo their Fs and their Ds. We have college awareness. All of our students go on college field trips twice a year. We have 3 buses that show up in the morning on a college field trip day. The 10th graders all get on a bus, the 11th and the 12th graders, and they all go to a different site. They do a tour and they do some team bonding, and it's a lot of fun for them. We get visits from college reps in our senior English classes, and we're actually adding college readiness to our advisory program for our senior level. And we offer college testing, the SAT, to our juniors that are interested. Tutoring after school on Tuesdays and paper tutoring is available to all of our students 24/7. And our targeted meetings, it's going to be pretty repetitive because some of these meetings we do for pretty much everything on our site. Our intake meetings are when our students start with us. We meet and talk with the students and parents about what are their plans, how many credits do they need to graduate, to get A to G ready. And also we discuss the Spartan Eastside Promise at that time. We have parent workshops regarding the college and FAFSA throughout the year in the afternoons and evenings. And we have at-risk parent-student meetings for our students that are not complete in their credit recovery. Students of Concern meetings is something we started last year, and it's basically a collaborative effort with our care team and all of our teachers. And we meet during collaboration time and we focus on a specific grade level. And we look at, if it's 12th grade time, we look at all of our seniors and we go one-to-one. We put it up on the screen, one-to-one. We go through each student and talk as a whole group of staff members how we can support our students. And then our advisory program, we have the 180-degree program for our curriculum. We also have academic support and interventions that we've built in this year, and we work on building relationships with our students. And the other 2 things that I didn't put on the slides, but also help with our A to G completion and graduation are summer school as an offering, and also the 5th year that's now available to our seniors, which is huge for the kids that need more time. Attendance. So the graph on the left shows the Calero attendance compared to the district, and we are much lower than the district. It's an area of growth. I also see this one as a win because a lot of our students came to us truant, and now they're coming to school. And it might not be every day, but they're coming. They come late, but they still show up. And so I see this as a win, also as an area of growth. So in both. And on the right, it shows the yellow column is Calero overall, and then the orange is 10th grade, blue is 11th, and red is 12th. And it just shows me that our neediest this year are our 10th graders. This is our month-to-month data so far this year. And for our actions, we are using our communication. We use our CBOs, our teachers call home, our care team, our attendance secretary, and our MTSS TOSA has been doing a few home visits, which has helped engage students. We have our targeted meetings. We have our weekly care team meetings, our ARC meetings, and our student advisor is really checking in with individual students that are at risk and building the relationships. And so it also helps when they get in trouble later, they think they're being called in to have a chat and a snack, but it's like, no, we know what you did in class yesterday. So he's really building the relationships and it's helping. And we have our Saturday school, of course. And the coolest thing I think about Calero is that instead of being punitive, it's and saying like, you're in trouble, you're late, we say, I'm so glad you're here today and so glad to see you. And that shows the kids smile. They love it. So these 2 graphs here show our EWS data. So it's our early warning system data. And actually these 2 graphs show this, it's the same data, just 2 different ways to look at it. So on the left, the red shows our students that are at risk. And this was for marking period 3, which is the semester 1 data. And it shows that we have over half of our students that are at risk. But I also see this one as a win because when they came to us, they were all at risk. So when they come, it's like the whole thing is red, right? And now we see some green, we see some yellow, so they're improving. And on the right, each dot represents an individual student. And you can see as a pattern, the majority of the students are pretty low at risk. And there are a few that are up there that of course we need to target as well. But I just thought this was cool to see this data in 2 different ways. So our actions for these, again, it's our weekly care meetings, our student advisor meeting with individual students, Our counselor and our MTSS TOSA meet with students at the end of each grading period that have failed a class, and they talk about study skills and positive habits. And also, again, our staff is looking at the data, doing students of concern meetings during our collaboration. Successes and highlights for our school. So student engagement is one of the most positive things that we have going on at Calero. Every student is in an advisory class, and they're with the same teacher all 3 years. So they really get to build the connections with the class and the teacher. Our wellness center groups, we have a lot more groups this year, and we're very grateful for the support from the district with all of these groups for our students. The issue is finding space for them. And so that's been an issue the last few years. Monitoring our tiers 2 and 3 students. And we have assemblies at the end of each grading period, and we recognize the students who have done well with our Calero culture of respect, responsibility, and results. And we recognize students that have made the honor roll. We have a few students that had a 4.0 at the semester, perfect attendance, credit completion, and we have a student spotlight. Pretty cool. And our student leadership includes the student voice, and that's going really well. Again, the college field trips, and we have inclusive activities with our ATP students. Specifically, we have the Special Olympics in the fall, we have soccer in the spring, we have basketball. For parent engagement, we have a quarterly newsletter that we now, and we're increasing the number of parent meetings. And a success was we had a full WASC visit during the power outage. Yeah, it actually worked out in a way. We did Zoom, lots of Zoom meetings, but it was interesting. And so that happened last week. So the recommendations from the WASC, well, first was to get power, to get PG&E out there. But just kidding. If you can scroll. Okay, so some of the recommendations that they had for us is dedicating more collaboration time to have the students work, the teachers work on interdepartmental units and lessons, and also working on their assessments. Implementing strategies to increase the rigor and prepare our students for 4-year colleges. So we get them to college, and we want to make sure that they're successful when they get there, if that's the path they want to take. Another thing that we need to work on is looking at individual student learning, specifically cycles of inquiry. And for our strengths, we had 13 strengths total, but I kind of summarized them into these: positive school culture, student well-being, our advisory program, MTSS, parent, communication, and our staff's role in the student's success at our site. And so these are just some pictures of our graduates, and the young ladies on the bottom right, they are our top 2 students from last year. One got into UC Berkeley and the other into UC Santa Barbara. And yeah, pretty impressive. And then the honor roll picture is our most recent assembly. Those are the students that made honor roll for first semester. Pretty cool. And then the last slide, I just want to thank you for supporting us at Calero, specifically with personnel, the care team, the student advisor, the social worker, counselor, and MTSS TOSA are integral to our work, and I really appreciate that you've dedicated that personnel to us by being so small.
Thank you. Love hearing about the great work you're doing at Calero. I love going to your site. I love the vibe out there. So really, thank you for keeping that the doors and the hearts open for kids. So colleagues, do we have any comments? Yes?
I had been wondering about the impact of the distance of traveling to where the school is located, and you mentioned that some students take 2 or 3 buses to get there. Is there actually an impact that students who could or would want to go there actually don't because of the distance and transportation?
Yes, we do find that some parents don't want to put their students on those buses. And in fact, if they have to switch several buses. So yeah, that has been an issue. But we do, as you can tell on the graph showing, we have students that come from every single site.
Right.
So
It's an
they
issue,
can make
yeah.
it, it's possible, but it is hard. So when they miss their first bus, then they're really going to be late.
Yeah, yeah. And say more about the distinction between Calero and a continuation program, continuation school program.
Absolutely. So a continuation school is a shorter school day,
Oh.
fewer credits to graduate. Students can be sent to a continuation school, like for discipline and things. And it's also 11th and 12th grade for continuation schools. And Calero is 10, 11, 12. It's a full school day, 220 credits. It's basically we're a small comprehensive site
Got it.
and a focus on college and A to G as
Great.
well.
Thank you for your presentation. That was
You're
really
welcome.
informative.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Principal Gutierrez, we want to thank you for your work. And also, it was a model of resiliency when the power went out and seeing that they quickly organized into Zoom to get their WASP down. And the PG&E teased us. We had power for the afternoon. And the next morning it was out again and they were right back at it. And it kind of just exemplified what Calero is all about. Hey, something's going on. The power might have gone out in your early high school, but we're going to bring it back and we're going to keep moving. So thanks to you and your staff for doing that.
All right, wonderful. Excuse me. Now we're going to move ahead to 8.02. This is presentation and or discussion regarding a supplemental early retirement plan, also known as a SERP. So this is consideration and approval or adoption of resolution 2024-15 SERP for certificated and classified bargaining unit members. So Mr. Vanderzee, do you want to introduce this item, please?
Yeah, early in this, what's being brought for you tonight, truly for adoption at the recommendation of staff, is for us to offer a CERP to certificated classified employees for this year. And so we'll explain a little bit about the members who qualify, what the terms of the CERP will be. Hi. And kind of what the savings would be with a fully restored notion. Bringing it back, and then also what services would be available for staff as they do planning and going, whoa, it's February and I'm planning the rest of my life right now. What services are available to make a decision that's right for me. Part of our decision to move at a CERP at this point of the year was due to some information that we got from increase in benefits and other expenditures in last year's county negotiation, that we see increases in expenditures and looking for a way to mitigate that. But also just in the fact that we got approached by a lot of staff members in the fall who say, hey, if we go for that, I'm definitely interested. I think it's time for me, I'm there. So the last time we went for a CERP, we offered in September. It was, I guess, too early in the year for people to make decisions. So we didn't hit the number to actually do it. We extended that date on February 13, which is 2 days ago in our calendar year. And then by doing that, we're able to hit the target number. So totally understand that when we're doing this in the year can be yeehaw, been waiting for this for many people, but then also kind of feeling the time crunch and talking with family about, is this the right move to make? So I want to make sure that we get the information to you to make a decision. If you do vote positively, the letters informing staff of this for those who qualify will go out tomorrow, and our sessions explaining the CERP and where they fit into it will begin an option for them, even though people are off, to be able to, I believe, attend a Zoom next week, or is it the following week when we come back? The following week when you come back from break, for those that have it, we'll begin those sessions now. But to walk you through it all, thank you for being here. And we'll begin. We'll stay in tune with each other in terms of where we are in the presentation.
So good evening. And so we have Miss Gail Beal from Keenan and Associates that is here, and she's going to walk us through the CERP this evening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Hinton. So President Cortese, Superintendent Vanderzee, members of the board and staff, before I get started, I just really want to thank the staff here. The Superintendent's Council, especially Dr. Huntoon, put in hours of looking at numbers that we provided. And I mean, just amazing to work with. So I just wanted to let you know that. Secondly, what the resolution is calling for really is for you to approve the offering of the plan. So once we know the results, for those of you who were on the board previously, we do bring those results back to you for final approval. So what this is more of a no cost, no obligation type of situation that you're approving tonight. So as I get into the presentation, we really look at 5 different things, different steps when we're doing a program. We want to define the purpose, and I think the superintendent has articulated that. Kind of my favorite piece is understanding the demographics, because that's truly important. Analyzing the economics, what does it mean financially? Designing enrollment, so what we provide in terms of services to you and your staff. And then just kind of a comment on the work comp situation. So the Supplemental Employee Retirement Plan, or SERP as we call it, is a plan that Keenan's been offering since the early 80s. It's typically designed to address certain things such as declining enrollment, assisting in proactive staff planning, really enhancing retiree benefits to the retirees in addition to CalSTRS and CalPERS, and then really respectfully compensating your long-term employees. We really feel that the SERP plan is a win-win. So it allows the district to develop and offer an incentive that will enhance those retiree benefits and really improve job security for existing employees. And then, as I mentioned, really providing an effective budget and staff planning program. So as I mentioned, understanding the demographics, vitally important in my view. So we took a look at individuals who were 55 years of age with 5 years of service, both for your classified and certificated, and that really coincides with the state as well. So within that, you had 265 certificated individuals and 187 classified. The average age of that group, pretty close, 60 and a half for certificated, 62 and a half for classified. Average years of service at the district, because we understand they may have service elsewhere, 22 for certificated and almost 21 for classified. I think this chart really gives you an idea of the potential. And when I say that, I mean looking at how many people we really feel will go. So as I mentioned, you have 265 individuals who fit into the qualification for certificated. But if you look down at age, let's look at age 60 as an example, you have 124 individuals who are 60 and over. What that really tells us is the potential for a successful plan is very high. And if you look at the top, you can see all the dots there that show how many individuals have over 25 years of service. I think it's really a powerful indication of a successful plan. Similarly, for your classified individuals, if out of the 187, if you look at age 60 at the bottom, there are 105 individuals who are 60 and over. So you are potentially, for both groups, you could get some individuals who were 55, 56 that might take the plan because you have some that have a lot of years of service. But typically we see individuals 58 to 60 years of age and older that will participate in the program. So what has been designed is a plan that's based on 65% of salary for each individuals. And these are just examples of what those monthly benefits would be to an individual. Now, this is assuming the average salary of both groups. So you can see for, and I see that actually it says class, we should have one for classified, right? Oh, it's on there. Okay. Mine shows certificated for both. Okay, good. I'm glad that's corrected. Yeah. So we're assuming a salary of 131,183 for certificated. And I don't want to take your time and go through every number for both, but explaining what each benefit means, I think is important. So life only, for the certificated example, is $433.29 per month. This is pretty self-explanatory, but it's for the life of the retiree only, no survivor options. So very similar to the STRS unmodified offering. The second one, in this illustration is assuming the retiree and the survivor are about the same age. So $404 for the life of the retiree monthly. Upon his or her passing, the survivor would get 50% of that for his or her lifetime. Now, if there is a discrepancy in age, because we'll have people come in for counseling and they'll say, well, can I put my child or grandchild on as survivor? They certainly can. But this is the only benefit that's based on the age of both. So there are other ways to provide for perhaps a child and grandchild. So that's why we have the individual counseling. Life for 10 years, whichever is longer. Quite frankly, in over 30 years of doing this, I've never seen anyone take this benefit. But the $424.73 is the monthly benefit for the retiree. That amount is guaranteed through the first 10 years of the payout period. If the retiree passes away in year 5, survivor gets 5 more years of the benefit. If the retiree passes away in year 11, there's no survivor options. Option 4 is underlined and in bold because this is the one that's taken most frequently. Most people want to take the most amount of money in the shortest period of time. So in this case, a little over $1,430 per month for 60 months. That is payable either to the retiree or the survivor. So all those benefits will be paid out. It works the same way for the other periods of time, the 6 through 10 years. Again, certain number of checks paid out either to the retiree or the survivor. And options 4 through 8 are those that are eligible for IRA rollover. If an individual doesn't need all or a portion of that benefit, they can roll it over to an IRA rollover of their choice. And they can change the direction of where that money goes every 6 months. So some flexibility built into that. Option 10 is not eligible for rollover because years and years ago, the IRS said any retirement benefit that's paid out over 10 years or longer is a lifetime benefit. So they haven't caught up with the fact, I guess, that we're living longer. So in terms of results, and I want to really stress here, we're estimating participation very conservatively. Quite frankly, I think you'll get more than what's illustrated here, but we're estimating 40 participants for certificated, replacing all those positions. The actual payroll savings would be a little over $2.8 million over 5 years. And I really want to stress that because your actual savings in payroll is that amount of money. However, when we do this, we want to make sure that we subtract out the savings you would have had from individuals going without a plan. So we estimated you would probably get 20 people to retire without a plan. So that net savings is a negative of $348,667 if you get 40 participants. If you get 50 and you replace all positions, your actual payroll savings, your actual savings goes up to almost $3.6 million over 5 years, and your net savings does a turnaround of $368,061. Again, I really feel you'll probably get more based on your demographics. Classified scenario results with all replaced. We are assuming you would get 47 participants, 47 replaced. Your actual payroll savings, a little over 1.4 million. Assuming you would have had 14 natural attrition or 14 would retire anyway, Your net savings after all costs is 343,172. Now, I mentioned we think that you can probably get more participation, and I'm going to tell you why. We really feel that education is the key. So we take a look at really looking at three pillars. We want to look at the early retirement incentive, the CalSTRS and CalPERS pension plans, and then the retiree medical benefits that are provided. So how do we help with that? So we have group sessions where everybody can be involved and kind of hear the general overview of the program. But what really highlights our program is the individual counseling sessions. I think it's extremely important. We've had a couple districts who have said they've had participants come back and say they really appreciated the fact that they were treated with respect with the individual counseling sessions. And quite frankly, some folks don't feel comfortable asking questions in a group setting. They have really specific questions that are important to them. So we provide one-on-one counseling sessions. Most of our counselors are retired educators, but we also have retired management and classified folks. Typically, these meetings run half an hour to 45 minutes. And really, it's not something that we're compensated on participation. It's something that we offer as a service. I think that the individuals actually go through specific benefit sheets, the enrollment packet, but they're also able to answer specific questions such as, what's it like to wake up and every day is Saturday? What am I going to do? What did you do when you retired? So they get that special attention that way. So it really, it's a tough decision. It's probably one of the toughest decisions anybody will ever make, especially if you've been working 25 or 30 years in your profession. So I think it's important to offer that individual counseling session. Now, for our group meetings, we know this is not just a CERP decision. It's really a life-changing decision. So we have a representative with CalSTRS that comes out with us. They do a piece of the presentation and answer questions. CalSTRS will also, or CalPERS, I'm sorry. CalSTRS comes out with this. CalPERS will come out at the request of the district, not our request. So our goal is to have both in attendance. But I think what this provides is, that's the bigger piece of their retirement. And we want to make sure that they get all their questions answered, hopefully at the same time. Just a couple of our counselors who are retired educators. In this case, they happen to be sisters, but they're just exceptional. We have some up here as well, individuals who worked at Alum Rock and Oak Grove. Also help with our counseling. So really proud of our counseling staff. As far as participation and technology, we have everything set up electronically. So when an individual makes an appointment, that's done electronically, typically, or they can call us and we can set that up. And everything is signed through DocuSign. So when we get a packet back, it immediately goes to staff here for their signature. And we also set up a dashboard. So the district has an ongoing count of how many are going and when that decision is made. So it's really important, I think, rather than being surprised at the end, you're getting an ongoing accounting of what's going on. Your timeline. Now, I want to say that if we need to add any meetings, we certainly can. But certainly we will provide, upon your approval, announcement letters to go out to each individual. And within that announcement letter is the protocol to go through to sign up for an individual counseling session. It lets the individuals know when the group sessions are. So everything is done through that announcement letter. So individual or group meetings are tentatively scheduled for the 26th and 27th of February. Individual counseling sessions can be in person, through Zoom or telephone, whichever works out best for the individual. Excuse me just a second. And then the SERP enrollment packages and the letters of resignation are due April 12th. Part of the reason for that, giving them enough time to make a decision, but also having that deadline so that we can prepare a final savings analysis to bring back to you at your April meeting. So we will do that. The individuals must retire by June 30th. The plan effective date is July 1, and first benefit payments would go out August 1. And lastly, I just wanted to talk just a little bit about how work comp and SERP are integrated. While we don't identify any savings you might anticipate there, certainly you can identify who took the SERP, who has an open work comp claim. So it reduces those outstanding liabilities and certainly improves that bottom line in the next actuarial report. So that's something you would do internally. We would not necessarily be involved with that, nor would we illustrate that savings should there be any. And that is all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I've got a question over here. Go ahead.
Is there a valid counter case in terms of the district's interest that could be articulated? And if so, what would that be? How would that be articulated?
I'm not quite understanding.
So this is basically all pointing towards it's in the district's interest to proceed with this.
Correct.
Is there an opposing case that could be articulated? It says, well, you know, there's also reasons not to proceed with this.
You know, I think it's an individual decision per district. I think the way we set up the plan allows you to kind of find that out. If you don't get the participation you want, you know, we shake hands and go our separate ways, and there's been no cost to you. I think what this really does is allow you to gauge any excitement for something like this for your employees. I think for the district, I don't see a lose-lose here in terms of if you get the participation necessary and it's, you know, individuals at the higher end of the salary schedule, you're going to save money, which is a positive thing. And the other thing is it's voluntary. So, you know, no one's being forced into this.
So if we get the participation, it's a win-win.
Correct.
And if we don't, we're not approving the SERP tonight, we're offering it to gauge the interest. But once again, all these numbers are based on the supposition of being refilled. And we know that every year there's natural attrition and right sizing that occurs so that we're able to offer programmatically, but with declining enrollment, there is a possibility that not all positions would be refilled, and that would contribute to additional savings.
One last question, because I saw a couple of emails from two different teachers saying, we need more time. Can this be made available? Can the window be this year through next year or some date next year? I don't understand what significance that is or how it might, you know, not make it work. But I'm just wondering the answer to that question.
Well, certainly that's a district decision. However, I think the timeline outlined here is pretty typical. And with the help of CalSTRS, CalPERS, our SERP counselors, I think, again, I mentioned it's a tough decision, but they're getting all the information to make that informed decision. What the CalSTRS, CalPERS, and even our counselors can do is illustrate to them, okay, if you worked another year, would that equal the amount of that option A? Chances are probably not. in terms of the state benefit. Might be 2 years. So they can kind of get an idea of, okay, I need to work 2 more years in order to get this benefit. And I think it really depends on, you know, different lifestyles. Some people want to keep working. One of them. And so I think it just depends on, you know, what they want to do. Do they want to travel? Do they want to spend more time with kids, grandkids, whatever that might be? It's just such an individual decision. If the district chose to extend it, you know, we would certainly do what we could to make that work. But I think what's been set up is really a pretty viable timeline.
So I'm imagining that these teachers who raise that concern about not enough time to decide aren't aware of the extent of support that they're going to have in doing the analysis and so on.
Perhaps,
Once
yes.
they're aware of that, they might feel like they can work with it after all. We'll see what you think.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, for a quick question, do we have an incentive money to get the employee to sign up earlier? I remember several years ago, I know that we have a little bit incentive bonus or something.
Yeah, that's what this program is. This is offering 65% of the salary for the term that they would select
Okay.
to retire. And then there's cost savings to the district in terms of hiring somebody that might be newly experienced, or if there's natural attrition or right sizing within our district for that we not refill that position. And that's where the cost saving comes from. But the employees themselves that enter into this program would receive 65% of their current salary over the term that they pick. And I think the one that has been identified as the most popular is over a 5-year period, but there are other options. And that's why, to your point, Board Member Herrera, is like, we'll get the letters out tomorrow so they're aware of this information as well as the counseling and support that they can get in the short term to make this decision.
And yes, and let me also say that the district isn't paying for this all up front. You're paying for it over 5 years, so 5 equal installments. So while the benefits are based on the full amount, you're paying for it over 5 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a couple of speakers on this item, so if we could have Kevin Murphy.
All right. Let's give them 3. Yeah, right, exactly. So, hello, I'm Kevin Murphy. It's good seeing many of you. Brian, thank you for meeting, but I've met all of you or worked with you except for you, Tom, but I'll talk to you later. Well, I have 2 minutes or maybe 3 minutes in less than 2 months to make a decision for the rest of my life. And I'm not pleased, but I'm happy for those who've already made their decision. They're getting a nice little bonus. I'm going to ask us to, you to consider it from our perspective. You've heard, Keenan's perspective, and I'm one of the they that they talked about. You'll find out quickly how many of them are going. Well, my name is Kevin Murphy. I've been in the district teaching for 24 years. My children have attended all our schools. My wife teaches here. My brothers and sisters attended our schools here. I'm not a they. I'm a person, and I need time to think about this big decision, along with my other colleagues. Please. Earlier this year, there was an unsubstantiated rumor that there might be a golden handshake. And I met with one of the board members here at Piedmont Hills High School, and I'm very pleased that she did that. And I asked, actually, had she heard of it? And she said she had not last fall. And one of my fellow faculty members came in and also mentioned it. I haven't heard about it. And the rumor died until this morning at 7:10. I get this announcement. Would you like to end your career prematurely in the next, less than 2 months? My wife and I, who you may know, Nancy Kennett, and Rosemary Kuhn and others were discombobulated. For those who are retiring, again, congratulations. And I wish you to continue this, but I'm going to ask that you extend this for another year so we can meet with our people, not just the people that are presented by an outside party for our best interests, which may or may not be true. But I feel rushed even typing this up. I haven't got answers, so excuse me for being a little less prepared than I want to be. I don't know what SERP really means. I know we'll hear some meetings. I'm going to get a letter tomorrow, but I want to meet with my people. Who are my people? My people I have to make appointments with. In order to get a personal appointment with CalSTRS, I need a month. And then for those who qualify for Social Security, am I going over? Getting close? Okay, I need to make another appointment with them. Well, you know how the government works. I don't have enough time to even do this, and I have to talk to outside counselors who are going to tell me what's good for my life. I'm going to ask this. I want to quickly read this text, and thank you for giving me 3 minutes to talk about my life. But I'm anxious. I've been teaching. This is my 40th year in education, but I've never had to make a decision with my life. And our kid in college. So excuse me. So we sent letters, a couple of us sent letters, and Tom, you were very kind to respond to one of my colleagues. And you wrote, unfortunately, we do not have a provision in the SERP proposal that would allow us to extend the offer until June of 2025. And I understand that because it's not in the provision. So I'm going to ask you to put a provision in this proposal to extend it to June of 2025, so we can be good adults, be good family members for our children and our family.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Julio Pardo. And Julio, as one of our bargaining unit presidents, is allocated 5 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Julio Pardo, CSA President for East Foothills. So my people have been asking me since August of last year if the district's going to offer something, mainly because we've heard everything on the TV. Everyone's seen the dire warnings about the state budget and everything, and they're mostly concerned about layoffs. And a lot of people are, look at that. Is there a way that maybe we can help prevent that from happening? And so I did send some to the district a while back because, to be truthful, we know the district only offers this. Usually it happens every 5 or 6 years. And the last one was not that long ago. And so I proposed something that would affect classified and try to show that we could still do it and the district would save money. I can tell you right now that this offer is much better than one I had put forward because I wasn't expecting it. I was not expecting the district to actually come up with something. So my people, I can guarantee you, are going to be very excited about this. As I've said, there's at least 6 people at my side alone that have been bugging me about trying to get a golden handshake, as we call it. You guys can call it a SERP, whatever you want. Everyone's used to using the term golden handshake. Now, the only problem for us, though, is that if our people retire for CalPERS, once we submit, we have to wait 3 months in order to get start getting the benefits of CalPERS. And so you say April 12th, that's only, when you get right down to it, with the 2 weeks off because of the winter break and Easter vacation, that only gives us about 5 weeks for our people to discuss this. That's not really that much time. So I would also ask that you extend this only to give people a little more time. I would think that 2 months is enough time for them to talk to people and make a decision, which would mean make it due by April 30th or May 1st. So that way people could submit it. And by the time they start getting paid through their pension, it would be sometime in September or August. Let's see, May. If they submit it in May 1st, it'd be May, June, July. So they would start getting paid in August, which is the beginning of the school year. Now, of course, I know that is different for teachers because you have to fill those teacher positions, maybe, depending on what your attendance looks like, what your student body looks like, how many more teachers you have to bring in to replace those that leave. I look at the numbers that were presented up here. I believe it was over 100 that were 60 years or older. Is that correct? Yes. Over 100. I'm pretty sure we'll easily get to at least 50 or 60 of those. And there's a lot of people that are, believe it or not, only going to be 55 that have talked to me about retiring. And so I'm pretty sure we'll easily hit the numbers for classified. The question is, will they do it because they don't want to have to wait a month to start receiving their pension? For those that do retire completely. Those that are 60 or over, they'll probably start taking early retirement on their Social Security, if some aren't doing that already. But it would help to have their pension so that they retire. My last day is July 31st. As of August 1st, I'm retired. And guess what? August 5th, I get my first CalPERS check. That's what's going to be important to them. If they have to submit it by April 12th, they'll probably go 1 month without a CalPERS check. And that might not seem like a lot to a lot of people here, but to our people, that extra, that $2,500 or $3,000 or $4,000 they're receiving their pension is very important to them so they can survive. So I would ask that you consider maybe making it till the end of April at least, so that people have 2 months to think about it, so they can apply for their CalPERS sometime in May, so they can receive their first payment sometime in August. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I got to say, I don't fully understand the implications of what Mr. Pardo's asking. Does somebody know if it's something we can extend this by a few weeks or?
I think what he's asking for is instead of making the April 12th kind of the due date for in or out to extend it past that date. The problem with that is then compiling the information, doing the financial analysis to see if it's beneficial or not to the district in a manner of time that allows us to then take action on it and inform people. Yeah, that's life. And as I started the conversation, I totally understand that there are many people out there who have been considering and asking for this, and they're going to say, like I say, all right, we're there. There's other people who are like, I wasn't anticipating this. Is like a new problem for me to solve, or there's a new opportunity to see if I want to take it out. And totally get that, and understand the timeline it's aligned with many other districts that have this, but still understand that for every person, it's a very personal and important decision, and some might be in a position of readiness to take it and others not, and totally respectful of that. But Mr. Nguyen, you wanted to
Thank you. I
add?
think there might be some confusion because the April 12th deadline is just a date that we have established to determine whether we have enough participants to move forward with it. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the effective date of retirement for CSA or certificate members. They have a much later timeline because theoretically by April 12th, if we don't have enough participants, the board can choose not to move forward with it. And so then they can then withdraw that. So the April 12th is just a deadline to seek or solicit the number of participants we may get.
So if they're participating, the retirement date maybe isn't until June 30th or
June
something.
30th, correct.
Right, okay. Any other comments?
Have some online
Oh,
comment,
thank you.
if we could.
Yeah.
Let's keep it in the, first we'll have Nancy Kennett. You could unmute yourself. You have 2 minutes. You gotta
Yes.
get yourself.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for joining us.
And you can hear me?
Yes.
Good. So I was one of the people who wrote about feeling rushed about this. And what I'm hearing is it's not that I'm very knowledgeable about my status in retiring, but I'm considering leaving early a profession that I love deeply. And so for me to like jump to doing it right now is very emotional. So I want you to think about that also. I was happy to hear from the Keenan representative that it would be possible to extend it to a second year. And I would also request that you put out a questionnaire to say, if you had a choice of doing it this year or next year, which would you choose? Because why not have more information? And you might end up with twice as many people because there are all sorts of points with CalSTRS that you know, well, next year I'm going to have 25 years. I'm actually going to have 38 years next year. So there are all sorts of reasons that making it a choice of 2 years of when to retire would mean you would get many, many, many more people because of the thresholds that people hit that will affect them for the rest of their life, hitting the age factor, all kinds of things, hitting the number of years in the formula. But I was very happy to hear from the Keenan representative that it would be possible to do a 2-year loop with this, if you will. And I will just end this by saying that I hope that you could survey people to say, you know, would you do it this year? Would you do it next year? Why not get more information? Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah Leshin, if you'd like to unmute, you have 2 minutes.
Oh, hi, thanks. Debbie Leshin, Oak Grove High School. I just have a question. If you don't get the participation you anticipate and you decide to, renege or whatever you want to say, not go through with the program, but we've submitted or a letter of resignation. I mean, where does that leave our status?
It won't be adopted at that point. The board, you have the opportunity to then rescind the retirement. Because if you retired in anticipation of utilizing the SERP plan and the board decides not to move forward with it, then you have an opportunity to essentially rescind that retirement.
As in order to enter and be one of the numbers, you do have to submit your intent to retire, and that becomes binding at that point. If the program on April 18th or whatever date that is, if the board decides not to do that, those employees would have the opportunity to say, you know what, I've got my head around it, I'm still going to retire, or to rescind their retirement at that point.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Rosemary Kuhn, if you'd like to unmute yourself, you have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much. You can hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'm Rosemary Kuhn. I'm a teacher at Piedmont Hills High School. I also wrote an email asking for more time. The Keenan representative said our one-on-one counseling appointments are typically 30 to 45 minutes. I have already been 4 hours in CalSTR's group appointments thinking about retirement. I have more scheduled in the next month. 30 to 45 minutes sounds like nothing to me. It does not sound like enough because there are so many variables. She also said it's a tough decision. I want to echo that and emphasize how tough it is. She and other speakers have recognized some of what's tough in that. The group appointments were on February 26th and 27th. I already have appointments for those days, one of which is about retirement with one of my financial counselors that took me 2 months to schedule, and so I can't change that. When she said this will create great excitement among your employees, I want to acknowledge that excitement means anxiety. We feel very pushed and rushed and pressured, which is sad for me because this is a great benefit. A golden handshake is not something everybody gets. It's not something everybody is offered. And I would have to say no at this point. I would have to say no. I'm 32 years in and I'd have to say no. And because it's too quick, I can't make it. I don't feel settled and I don't feel secure. Now give me some time to figure that out and it could work out for me. To have found out that it was a disadvantage to me to pass it by, I would be disappointed, but I would know, well, that was the best decision I had, I could make at the time. I agree with Nancy Kennett that if we had some more time or more surveys, I think you'd get more participation. And isn't that a win-win? When Keenan says the timeline they have proposed is typical, I want to say, I don't see a clock, so I'm not sure how much time I have. When Keenan says,
Thank you. That's actually been 2, but
okay.
Thank you for
We
your
need more time.
comments.
Thank you, Rosemary. All the online public comment that we have.
Do we have any written public comment? Okay.
So I hear the concerns, I hear the anxiety, the tension around a decision of this magnitude. I also hear the excitement for folks who are in fact ready to move with this kind of an opportunity. I'll call it a golden handshake. That's a typical phrase that I've always heard. So I'm wondering how to reconcile that, because I certainly, if it's possible to accommodate the folks who are on, can see the possibility but don't have the certainty, how can we resolve this? Or do we just have to leave them behind, knowing that we don't always offer this, you know? I'm not clear right now how to work with everyone, because there are people who definitely have been communicating with the board. They want an approval tonight. They are teachers, they are other staff, they want this approved tonight. You know,
So there is some, the approving is just, tonight is just to offer it and
Yeah,
to gauge.
that's
And
what I
we
mean.
understand that the timing of this, the last time we went out was September, we didn't have the numbers. We, even with that timeline, we reissued later, in February 13 of that year. And people with the same, gathered information and made the decisions. I'm not trying to make light of a timeline or the importance of this decision. It's heavy, it's real. But also understanding, even though I know our Kenyon associates said the district could have to make that decision, our calculus for doing it for this year and for this year only is due to those increase in costs that we're seeing as a district that we're trying to mitigate, as well as responding to the requests from a good number of employees that are requesting this, and understanding that the timing might not work out for everyone.
Yeah, when the Keenan representative said it's the district's decision whether we would extend it over a 2-year period. What I didn't hear was, well, you know, what's the implication of doing something like that? Or is it advisable to do something like that or not? So that's kind of fuzzy for me right now. And
So the three speakers that that spoke in regards to extending the deadline, what is essentially they're asking for is to offer the CERP both this year and next year.
well, yeah, that's
So that-
what I mean too.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so by doing that, we don't realize the savings that we would have in the immediate year following this action. And so theoretically, by extending it over 2 years, we may not or even lose money if we initiate that plan.
So, but we don't actually have an analysis of that option. When you say we won't have as much savings, I don't know what that means. Is it minimal loss? Is it significant loss? What have you? That's one piece. The other one is this idea of a survey, if, you know, where staff could respond. Yeah, if the opportunity was available, I'd take it this year. Or if it was available next year, that's when it would work best for me to be able to, you know, respond. How do we respond to that? Is there a reason why we wouldn't do that kind of a survey?
It essentially eliminates the notion of a retirement incentive. If you extend it over, it eliminates the notion of a retirement incentive if you offer it over 2 years. Because the purpose of offering it this year was to perhaps encourage individuals who are close to retirement to then study and analyze the benefits of possibly taking this early retirement. If you were to extend it over the next 2 years, then those individuals who may not opt to take it this year and wait for next year, we wouldn't receive the savings we would get if they delayed
Okay,
their decision further.
I'm understanding that, you know, that it's actually, we're working against our own, you know, goals and purposes by, you know, being that accommodating. You're gonna lose, actually, don't know how it would net out. Some people would end up changing their mind, others would opt in, and where did we end up at the end of the day? So I think it's more of a best practice to, as we are proceeding at this point.
Ed?
I understand the saving would necessitate that we would make offer only for this year. And while some individual can make very quick decisions, but some individuals, when it came to a decision for the rest of their life, probably take a little bit more information and perhaps a little bit more time. And if the two, maybe the informations and providing the training, would that be something the administration should be comfortable in providing those individuals who need the additional information to provide, like such as Mr. Kevin Murphy, who may need it in order to make a decision that affect for the rest of his life and his family.
Yeah, Keenan has offered a slew of meetings that they've scheduled, and they're offering even additional meetings if needed. And so if these staff members still require more consultation, then Keenan is available and able to conduct those meetings and consult.
But what I heard is that they would prefer to also consult with their own
Right.
chosen advisors, their own trusted advisors.
Well, they're bringing in CalSTRS. And so the consultant that our employees would consult is someone from CalSTRS. And so they're the equivalent personnel. Now, if they want to consult with their own personal financial advisor, then that's their prerogative. We really can't control that.
We have two last online comment, if we'd like to field those.
Please.
Deb Yelverton, if you could unmute yourself, you have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi,
Hi, and
I
we can
really-
hear you.
can you hear me now?
We sure can. You have 2 minutes, Deb.
Okay, thanks. I probably won't need 2 minutes because I have been preparing for this moment for 4 years. And I have to speak that I understand how people do feel very stressed in having to make this decision so quote quickly unquote. But I have since the last SERP been studying up on and planning for my retirement potentially at the end of this year. And for me, that has meant that I'm probably light years ahead of Kevin and Nancy, whom I know, and Rosemary. I think this is an absolutely wonderful opportunity. I was unable to take this SERP 4 years ago because I think I was much more in the position where they are. I think that I know I've met with the people from Keenan before. They do a marvelous job. I don't understand why it would take so many hours to meet with CalSTRS. I've retired and unretired from CalSTRS. And I don't know why it's much easier for me to make the decision, but I do think it's because I'm farther along the road toward being ready for that retirement. And I know that I also talked to several people at my site. Many are where I am, and some are where Kevin and Nancy and Rosemary are. Maybe not quite yet ready, but I truly appreciate the opportunity that I have to partake in this SERP. I am delighted and thrilled and very appreciative to be able to apply for it.
You nailed it
Thank-
2 minutes on the spot there, Deb. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, here we go. Greg Boyd, if you would unmute yourself, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, board. Hey, I just would like to echo a little bit about what Deb Yelverton said regarding the SERP. Been working on this quite some time, along with a bunch of other members. And although I have done little to no preparation for this, but I don't anticipate any problem as well. Kind of checked into STRS today. So I'm not sure what the big deal is on the STRS hang up because they were readily available to schedule me right away. So and as far as I can't speak for other financial people outside of this, but not having a problem in that area either, because I did reach out to them as well. So the other thing a few of us did canvass the school district with a number of our outreach people, and the number of names that we were able to kind of forward and gather is definitely in that 50 mark already with just getting after it today. So I think it's worth a shot to at least get this moving. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then maybe next year will be the year. But I'm thinking we won't have any problem seeing the district realize a return on their money for the next 5 years to come, and then some, and as far as savings anyways. So like I said, we've reached out. There's a number of us throughout the district that have spoken and reached out and got some amazing feedback in less than I don't know, what is it today? Less than 7-hour workday. So anyways, thank you for considering this, but like I said, I don't think it'll be any problem moving ahead, and I know it's a hard decision, but have a great night. Thank you. Cut me off.
So,
Are there any others?
with
That's the end of online public
Okay,
comment.
thank you.
With everything said and done, what is your recommendation, Mr. Superintendent?
Our recommendation is to approve the plan as presented in order for us to be able to offer as soon as tomorrow and to gauge interest in the activity and allow us through the transparency software that is there for us to gauge interest along the way so that we can come back to you to see if this is a viable program for this year. Also, in presenting this as an opportunity for us to take advantage of the kind of cut to the front of the line through Keenan in order to get CalPERS and CalSTRS counseling and online counseling with their staff in order to make an appropriate decision. I understand the question can cause anxiety. For the fiscal interest of the district, we're looking at to start this year in order to get the savings down for that third year budget situation. As Mr. Nguyen alluded to, like when we look forward, can't give you an exact dollar figure, but the savings wouldn't be as great. And so there is that tension within the district, but also kind of the path for fiscal solvency that we're looking for. This is a step towards that in a way that's not a layoff, not a, asking people to leave involuntary, but an opportunity for someone to take a 65% of their salary with them as part of an action that also serves the state programmatic interest of our district. Hey, Greg, make sure you mute. And so that's why we're suggesting that that you accept the recommendation as is tonight. Approve the recommendation.
Talking about.
Go ahead.
So clarifying question, what I heard from the presentation was that there will be group meetings or sessions where CalSTRS and CalPERS will be part of that. And one of those groups has to be invited by Eastside, right? But would Keenan also support individuals in those conversations with those entities? Because what I'm also hearing is difficulty in getting a hold of them so that could inform their decision.
We have to request that one entity that you spoke of. They have a relationship with CalSTRS that makes it immediate. If you look on the timeline here, you'll see that there are.
But was it for the group session?
For the
Glenn?
group session?
Individual, I'm speaking about individuals.
Yeah. The individual sessions are held from March 5th to 15th. It's a
Yeah.
10-day window. If you want to speak to.
But my understanding is that those individual sessions are with you all.
No.
Your counselors,
not
not
what I
with
said.
CalSTRS.
No,
or
I
CalPERS.
said I could see where they are, but I'm not there.
Uh-oh.
I said I could see what.
If
no,
you
I could
spoke,
see
I
where
would
they
ask
were.
that you mute yourself. We've muted you here. But please on your end, please make sure that you mute your mic. We're hearing some conversations that we'd like to keep private.
There you go. That's never happened to me. Oh dear, I could tell you a couple stories.
Right?
So our individual counseling sessions are just for this program. At the group meeting, CalSTRS will be available to answer questions certainly, but also can set up individual CalSTRS meetings
Yeah.
at that time.
Okay, that's more my question. If we can make sure that people are aware of that, and if we can inform CalSTRS and CalPERS, so whoever might request that to make sure, like maybe advertise it a little bit. I don't know what your advertising is, so I don't want to assume that it's
No,
not.
it's a
or-
good point.
I
Good point.
what I am hearing though is that this is a very big decision and that this is a pain point for some folks, not everybody, but for some folks.
Of course.
So the more that we could facilitate this decision for folks, I think the better.
Keenan will be sending out letters tomorrow if approved. It will go out in our monthly update as part of, on our email blast out. And then also once we get the right paperwork, we can also continue to send out advisors through our communications team here at the district as well.
Dr. Hunton, you look.
Yeah,
you want-
I
you
was
wanna
just
add
going to
something?
also mention the information that will come out tomorrow will give the members more information about what was discussed this evening about those. It'll have the timeline when they can establish those meetings. It will be a phone number, or it'll be emails. So there will be information in that communication that's going out, and we can continue to push that out. The timeline actually is in a separate flyer that can go out from HR, can post on the HR website. So I think there are some things that we can do to help to mitigate some of that as well, to get that information out there.
Thank you.
Mr. Pardo? Okay, come back. Come on up.
I think it was 46 seconds if I'm correct, but yes.
I had 37 seconds. Just kidding, just kidding.
Yeah, please. Get your comments in the micro, please.
Julio Pardo, President CSCA. I just want to explain myself with what I was asking for. And looking at the calendar, I understand why you want the 12th because you would probably vote April 18th. But the fact is that the week before the 12th is Easter vacation. And a lot of my people are going to be gone. And that's probably when a lot of people would want to start. We have a better chance of talking to them as to exactly what this involves. And so that's why I was asking if you just extend it, even just one more week. Your next meeting is May 2nd. That's only a couple of weeks after your April meeting. By then, it would also give the district, if we end it by the 19th, it would give the district more time to analyze everything that came into them. If you do it on the 18th and you end at the 12th, that gives them Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to analyze everything, and I just don't think they'll be able to get it all in time, truthfully. There'll be a lot of things going on. But if you can extend it just to the 19th, that'll give them the following week and then a few more days in May before you have your May 2nd meeting. And that's all I'm asking for. So that gives our people a little more time to actually see what's happening. It allows us to use that Easter week so they can think about it for a week or so and then be able to make their decision. Thank you.
So in adopting this, we would encourage people to seek those information sessions early. For many people, there's a break next week to begin these conversations. We understand the tightness of time. I don't want to be insensitive to that at all. Like, I understand this causes anxiety, and some people, hey, I just need time to think. We'd encourage them to get that information early and to start talking with their families. We will have that portal open to see, but I don't want to adopt this with any kind of false maybes about, oh, maybe it'll go for next year. Maybe we're extending the date. Right now, the proposal as is in order for them to be able to conduct the fiscal analysis to bring it to you. And for you at that point to maybe when you're at the 18th, make a decision either there or in the future. But I don't want to offer any kind of, don't worry about it. It's any false kind of, I don't want to say hopes, but expectations that the date is going to shift.
So I understand that the timeline was built around certain processes and calculations and analyses that need to happen in order for us to see if we fulfilled the requirements of the SERP and to process all of the paperwork or whatever that's required. So, okay, I guess, is there any more comment? Just looking for a motion.
I'd like to move for approval. Would kind hope that the administrations would take the time to help those who need additional help. If there are folks that still need additional help to engage and participate as much as possible.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Doe, second by Lay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed, abstained? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to 12.02, which is a presentation and a discussion regarding progress of the 2023-24 Local Accountability Plan. That's our LCAP. So I'll turn it over to our Associate Superintendent of Educational Services, Teresa Marquez.
Board President, I've had the opportunity to read this presentation. It's it'll be our longest one of the night, and we're at 8:24. I don't know if we want to take about 5 or 6 minute break before we begin this one. I anticipate this presentation to be at least an hour in length.
That might be prudent. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break.
I love John.
Everyone go to sleep.
Please stand up.
Yeah.
Sit
stretch your
and
legs a little.
stretch.
Yeah.
All right, appears we are all back, so please, Associate Superintendent, please carry on.
Thank you. Teresa Marquez, Associate Superintendent of Educational Services. Good evening, Madam President, trustees, superintendent, and community. Tonight, I'm here to present the mid-year update of our 22-23 Local Control Accountability Plan, the LCAP. Yep, and as we're loading, you'll see in the first slide that there's been a change to Senate Bill 114, which has added the requirement for all school districts across the state of California to present a report on the update of the LCAP. Historically here in Eastside, we've done a mid-year update where I've provided for you just some information around our goals, our actions, our metrics, but they're very specific as to the requirements. So if you go to the next slide, Superintendent, you'll see that the report or the presentation must be inclusive of any and all mid-year outcome data that we have that is related to the LCAP that we have available to us at this point, as well as expenditure information of the budgetary aspect of it, which normally I don't do because it's usually just from the educational services side, but this has been a collaboration with our business department. So that's a requirement, and so it's a little bit longer than you've been used to. And so please bear with me. The information is important, but I will try to be brief and succinct with some of the slides here. And so to begin, just orient ourselves that essentially what we're trying to look at, as I presented to you before, is ensuring that we have a integrated approach to our LCAP, which is inclusive of our metrics, our expenditures, but really here more globally around making sure that there's connections to our overarching work and vision of the work that we do as a district. In particular, one of the new aspects that you'll see here that I've been talking about is this capacity and implementation data, right? Which, you know, we haven't really done a good job of doing that. And so, you know, this will be a first attempt of us really starting to look at that capacity and implementation aspects of the LCAP. The next few slides are very familiar to you. Just want to make sure that as we look at the LCAP through the lens of, you know, the individual goals, the individual metrics, that it's really to continue to allow us to maintain that promise of college and career readiness for all our students across the board, regardless of disability, gender, language proficiency, and socioeconomic status, right? Because ultimately our goal is to ensure that all of our students are achieving at high levels. And we recognize that we are going to attain better outcomes for our students if we continue to build capacity so that our system is equipped to build equitable communities where, as you all know, right, this is our mantra, all students are welcomed as they are, where their strengths and area of growth are known and supported, where the adults positively respond to the various needs so that ultimately they can engage in instruction that is going to prepare them to be active participants in their local and global communities. The LCAP allows us to be able to really take the lens of a system, right? To really look at how we're responding as an entire system through policy, access, and practice. And you'll see a little bit of that in some of the data that I'm presenting, in particular with capacity and implementation data. Just a quick reminder, the LCAP is essentially a 3-year plan. And so this year's plan, 23-24, and I apologize, there's a typo there, but this year's plan, 23-24, marks year 3. And so we'll be getting into the next 3-year cycle, starting with 24-25. And again, right, I presented this to you last year as we were introducing the next year update to the LCAP. We're really trying to look at an integrated approach where we're going to interrupt that cycle, right? That cycle of misinstruction that then can develop into academic gaps, where then students fall behind, and then it could manifest itself in behavior issues, right? And really, a student can get caught at any point in that then kind of leads to the cycle. And so part of the LCAP and us responding as a system is to interrupt that particular cycle there. We are in the state of California, and they wouldn't just carte blanche, right? Give us and say, hey, write the plan however you want it. There are some requirements and some priorities that they want to make sure that we address. Specifically, there's 8 priorities that you can see here on the screen that range from basic services, our facilities in good repair, all the way to, do students have access to a broad course of study, and how are they performing in that broad course of study? So when you look at our LCAP, not only does it have to encompass those 8 priorities, but really it encompasses what the state of California is not pushing, which is our response as a system through our multi-tiered systems of support. And so in your review of this year, current year's LCAP 2023-24, you see a lot of mention around our work with multi-tiered systems of support, and specifically in our goals. Next slide, please, sir. You see that how we're going to address those 6 key areas for us are through this work of multi-tier systems of support. We have 6 goals as part of our LCAP. For many years, we've focused on 5 key areas. And last year, as part of our response to the data, we added a 6th goal. But you can see here on the screen that we focus on college and career readiness, graduation rate, the achievement of our English language learners, sustaining healthy and positive school cultures through our behavior responses, attendance and chronic absenteeism, and then focusing in on the achievement of our homeless youth and foster youth. The reason why we've continued and we continue to really focus and carry over these goals is because when you look at the next slide and you look at the California dashboard, which has been reinstituted back to the colors this year in most areas, you'll see that what we're expected to perform and what we're held accountable to is suspension rates, which are connected to the behavior, English learner progress, which is our goal 3, graduation rate, which is our goal 2, college and career readiness, which is our goal 1, and then the academic performance of our students, particularly in English and math, which is riddled across each of our goals, given that those are key markers for us as A through G, as well as graduation. And so you could see that we've aligned our goals as a high school only district to that of our accountability report card, which is here, the California dashboard. So part of providing this mid-year update is to provide our community, our board, with a progress check. And so the way I'm going to do it for this particular mid-year report is through 3 data pieces. One, our outcome data, which looks specifically at our progress, right? As a high school district, we have those 4-year annual metrics, as well as some more ongoing, more on-time metrics. I'm also going to take a stab at looking at our capacity data and then our implementation data. So just as a reminder, when we look at our outcome data, what you'll see across, next slide, sir. What you'll see is 3 levels in certain goals where we have it, right? You'll see that annual large scale data, which is inclusive of our 4-year graduation rate, those annual metrics, right? That we're able to see once the school year's over, after 4 years. Then we have some data available to us, which is our periodic date table, which is more of our on track, right? Like, how are they doing after their 9th grade year? Are they on track after their 10th grade year? And then also here, this is where you'll look at our whole child data report or our early warning system report, that every 6-week marking period, which allows us to be able to really take more targeted actions and really create more targeted supports and actions based on data that is quicker, sooner, more accessible, as opposed to having to wait till the end of the year, or obviously wait to the end of the 4 years. And then really looking at what's that ongoing on-time data that we can hone in on. And really that's at the classroom level, right? That's at the classroom level with the teachers and what they can do then with that data to support student learning. Now this is gonna be overwhelming. I know, the font's like tiny and small, but again, right? This is new for our system, right? This is new for us to really start looking at the capacity and implementation of what we say we're gonna do, right? And so we've worked on this rubric to really look at, okay, if we had to grade ourselves in terms of the capacity of the system when it comes to the system as a whole, like the infrastructure, right? What are our buildings looking like, right? Which I know that's beyond my scope in that essence, but really through my lenses, do we have the technology available for our students to access the instruction piece of it? What is our school climates looking like? To processes, personnel, and then the resource, right? When you look at capacity as a whole. So that's kind of what I'm looking at when it comes to, do we have the capacity as a system to ensure that we're successfully implementing and sustaining those actions that are going to give us the results that we want. And then the next piece, again, a little overwhelming here, the implementation aspect of it. To what level of fidelity are we actually putting in place the things that we said we're going to put in place? Okay, so that's kind of something new that I'm bringing in for us to try to examine and look at for this particular mid-year. So again, to set us up, just as a reminder, next slide, please, sir. These are our goals, right? We have 6 goals. I do want to point out the overall funding that we have allocated, because I will be sharing kind of where we are in regards to the funding for each goal. So in the next slide, you'll see what we've allocated from for the 2023-24 LCAP for each goal. And again, this figure, these dollars allocated to each of these goals are the funds specifically that target the actions that serve our foster youth, English learners, and low-income students. Okay, there's more money that is talked about in the LCAP, but those actions may be funded, for example, from Title II, which is our professional development, or from our one-time funds that we've received, such as our emergency block grant or our A through G grant. This figure here only represents those funds that contribute to the populations. Bless you. Okay. So here we go, right? So here's kind of how the process is going to be, right? Shampoo, rinse, repeat. I'm going to share goals and actions. I'm going to examine metrics. And another thing I changed is I've added some qualitative measures from the Panorama survey, right? That kind of, I felt, just kind of matched with that goal. So you're going to see metrics on qualitative, quantitative. I'm going to offer a reflection of what we see as some contributing factors, and then share capacity and implementation, and then report the expenditures. Okay, so just kind of bear with me. That's how we're going to go. So we have 6 rounds of this. Okay, so goal 1, college and career readiness. We have 16 actions here that we've outlined across, right? Just to orient you, just to give you kind of bring you back to what I know I've read it, that is what are some of those actions. So this is where our counselors, our school counselors, are listed in terms of the work that they do. This is where our MTSS TOSAs are listed as part of their work. This is where our inclusion specialists are. This is where we talk about our AP exams and supporting our students who are low income. And then our field trip. So you could see, right, the various actions here and positions here. And ultimately, this is to ensure that we are providing that high quality instruction, learning opportunities, so our students are graduating college and career.
Super quick question. I don't want to ask too many of these, but so field trips for students, am I understanding then that those field trips would be specifically for foster youth, English learners, and low-income students?
Yes, those are our target, but we've also offered them to our students who are not in those areas. But the field trips, yes, that's our target population. But just like with even our counselors, right? Yes, very emphasized support and target for our English learners, but obviously they provide services to all our students.
Thank you.
Yep. So when we look at our data, another question or, okay. So when we look at our data, here, when it first, again, this is annual outcome data, 4-year data. The newest data that not sure if you've seen yet or not, but for the class of 2023, which is our most recent graduating class, we had an A through G completion rate of 54.4% for all our students across. Okay, so a little bit more than 50% of our students are exiting our system having met those A through G. Now, you can see the bars, some are higher, some are lower. So I'll point out some key populations that are far lower than that of the district. Our English learners at only 26.3%, our students with disability at just 8%, our foster youth at 21%, our socioeconomically disadvantaged students at about 43%. And then when you look at it through race and ethnicity, our 2 lowest populations our Hispanic student population, which is about 30.4%, and then our African-American student population, about 32%, are graduating A through G as completers. But again, these kids are gone, right? It's a 4-year metric. So how do we impact that? So if we look at the next level of data, it's our on track A through G completion data. So at least here we can see, hey, after the 9th grade year, right? You still have 3 more years to go. Where are our 9th graders? And so you could see for this last school year, 22-23, 49% of our 9th graders were still on track for A through G, meaning they received a C or better, right? A C or better in those courses needed to meet the A through G. And you could see that it goes down as the years progress. So lots of work for us to do. So just 2 data points to share with you. Tons. I'm going to go into the early warning system a little bit later under the graduation one. But did also want to point this one. This one was super interesting for me as we look at the qualitative data aspect of it. So each year we give our students a panorama survey, both in the fall and the spring. And so these are the results from this past fall, right? So this fall of 2023. And I pulled this one in particular because it speaks to our students' own belief of whether or not they can succeed in school, and specifically by course. And so the question that's asked is to the students is, do you believe that you can succeed in achieving academic outcomes or goals in these areas? And you could see that for English, it's 56% believe that they can actually succeed, 45% in math, 50% in science, and 55% in social studies, right? And so couple the quantitative data with the qualitative, then we have more information for us to be able to actually then put together some actions to be able to increase student achievement. And then the second one is around rigorous expectations. So the question is, do you feel that your teachers hold you to high expectations when it comes to effort, understanding, persistence, and performance? And 59% of our students believe that their teachers hold them to high expectations. And we know, right, if students believe that their teachers believe in them, then outcomes are going to increase. So when you look at, well, what do we think's going on, right? What do you think's happening here? So tons of room for growth, but I really do believe that what can contribute to improvement is our continued work around MTSS and really honing in on the tier 1 as to what that looks like. What's that instruction really look like? What do the supports really look at across the board? I think what's helped is the intentional use of our LCAP funding to specifically target our populations, but also do it in a way that is supportive of all of our students. And then some board policy updates that we've brought. Obviously, I can point to one that happened many years ago, which is the A through G default, but that really actually allowed us to be able to move in the direction that we've moved. Now, what do I believe, and when reflecting upon this, what do I believe is contributing to us just kind of the status quo aspect of it? One, I think is we don't look enough at our capacity and implementation data, right? And you'll see my first stab at it with this update. And then just sometimes we have, I think, fragmented approaches to responding to the whole child elements, right? We need to become more cohesive, and I think the MTSS framework will allow us to be able to do that. And then I think we have to look at our dispositions and beliefs, right? Do we have that collective efficacy as a system around student learning and what we believe about our students? And all the research shows that collective efficacy has the highest impact on student achievement. So here's our first stab at it, right? So when you look holistically, and I didn't do this action by action, I kind of looked at it and I did it as goal 1 as a whole. When I look at it holistically with all the, I think it's 16 actions or 15 actions that are listed there. Where are we? And so as a system, I think we do have some infrastructures in place, but I know that there's some improvement that needs to be done there. In regards to, technology that we have, the environments that we provide for our students. When you look at our processes, we're effective in certain areas, but obviously there's room for improvement. When you look at our personnel capacity, I just didn't feel comfortable giving us anything other than an expert. We have really highly qualified staff, right? We do. I think across our system, we have highly skilled, experienced staff capable of leading. I think where the area for growth there is in professional development, in building that collective efficacy and really coming together as opposed to just kind of those individuals being individuals and being highly skilled, but how do we do it collectively across the system? And you're going to see consistently, you're going to see that I rated us as an adequate resource capacity because we don't get funded appropriately as some of our neighbors. And so, yes, we have sufficient resources that we allocate as part of our LCAP because we're very intentional with how we allocate our resources, but it's still insufficient when you look at long-term sustainability, right? When you look at long-term work, when you look at a budget that third year out, we have some hard decisions that may have to be made in terms of making sure that we're fiscally solvent. Just to, again, just orient us, this is something new that I'm bringing to the board here. Some of the evidence in me, doing this assessment is that, we're not at the highest tier at this high level still of sustainability or fully implemented, because we do still have some vacancies in some positions, right? We do have effective practices that have been established in key areas, but not across the board, right? I listed 3 specific ones out of, the 12 actions that are listed in there. But again, I will say that we have intentionally allocated staffing for goal 1, such as our counselors, our MTSS TOSAs, our inclusion specialists that are skilled and experienced. When you look at then the level of implementation, again, right, looking at it, do we have all the program components in place? What's the quality of delivery of the actions that we've listed? What's the level of responsiveness by our students or our participants who are engaged? And do we differentiate our programs? And so again, here you can see that in terms of, do we have other components in place? Most, but not to full implementation, not to full fidelity in this area. In terms of the quality of delivery, I would say that we're fair in that the delivery of services varies from site to site, right? To improve our consistency in terms of what happens. So just as an example, in this situation, right, it's do all our counseling sessions look the same across our school sites, right? Even just something as simple as that, right? Like what's actually happening when our counselors meet one-to-one with their students? Is there a consistent baseline practice that is happening across the board? And then finally, for goal 1, the expenditures. And so we're right there, right at the halfway mark. We've expended about 46% of our allocations. And so here's where I do want to orient you for this specific goal. If you notice, total budgeted expenditures for goal 1 are about 13 million. And that is inclusive of not just the dedicated LCAP funds, but those other funds that I mentioned, such as our A through G grant funds, our Title II funds that I've included because I recognize that it's important for us to have that integrated approach to our plan. The table gives you the specific contributing expenditures, or rather say the funds that are actually allocated for our foster youth, English learners, and foster youth. So there you could see that we're right about 42% of those specific dollars, okay? So all dollars on the top, and then just the LCAP dollars on the bottom table. All right, did that work for you? Goal 1, just kind of going through it. Okay, so you'll see me just speed up a little bit on the capacity and implementation piece of it, only because it's my first go at this. And so it's very similar. My assessment was very similar across the board with these, but I did just want to give you a feel for where I'd like to take it as a next step. Okay, so here's goal 2, graduation rate. And so we go from A through G. Let's get our kids college and career ready. And as part of that is getting them graduated. And you could see the 12 different action items here, just as a refresh. Some of the items that include here are our online credit recovery program, our summer school program, the work of our subject area coordinators, our coaching support for our new teachers who are clearing their credential is a part of this. And then action 12 is our added associate principle of tiered supports. So what does our graduation data look like? For the class of 2023, just graduated, we had a graduation rate of 87% for our students. Again, similar to our A through G, some bars are lower, some bars are higher. And so among our lower graduation rates, we have a graduation rate of about 60.9% for our foster youth, about 65% for our students with disability, and about 71% for our English language learners. When you look at it through the lens of race and ethnicity, our Hispanic student population is graduating at a rate of 78.6%, and our African-American student population is graduating at 80.9%. Okay, so you can see disparate outcomes across the board for our district. Again, annual outcome, four-year outcome, these particular students, class of 2023, no longer with us. When you look at the periodic outcome data, and here, the next slide, please. Oh,
Can I just say something that I think
Yeah,
is
yeah.
kind of a credit to our staff and our students that are working together, that, you know, those first two bars for those first 2 years, that lighter blue and that middle blue, those data were really skewed due to the fact that they had the option of graduating with lower credit totals across our system and across our state. But it's really healthy for us to see that last year's data without that is typically higher than it was 2 years ago. So they got that one boost in the middle with that middle bar. But if we look at our Latino students, we see that last year's graduation rate was much higher than it was 2 years ago. So I think that's really a credit to how our staff and students are working together post-COVID and starting to come back, and also their interaction with counselors that are meeting with them about the classes and also the actions about credit recovery, and it's a good thing. So it looks slow in some cases due to the fact of that one bump. We're being able to take a different graduation requirement, but I think it's a credit to Ed Services Department and this plan in general over the years for getting our students and staff working together that helps our students get back on track. So I know we're talking about LCAT, but thanks to you and your staff and for everybody out there who's listening at sites, working with our students every day. I want to thanks for the ability for us to rebound and move students back towards full participation in Silicon Valley.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And you know, I don't have it for this because it wasn't quite ready yet, but we do have our data that shows our students who have interrupted versus not interrupted enrollment and our school size. And you know that continues to be far greater outcomes for all our students across the board with the uninterrupted enrollment. And I'll bring that back to you when we come back for a different time. But again, you've seen this before. I just want to hone in on the 9th grade only because we have more time with them, right? And so if we could really hone in on looking at the data and trying to address the needs of our 9th graders, then I believe that our annual outcomes or 4-year outcomes will change. And so here for our graduation on track, at the end of 22-23, 64% of our 9th graders were still on track, right? So they got a D or better, different from the A through G, but D or better. Again, varying results for our other student populations, which include our English learners at 38%, our foster youth at only 7%, and then our students with disability at 42%, right? And so again, disparate outcomes for some of our student populations. Now, let's get into the fun stuff, right? The early warning system, that actionable data that we can actually see every 6 weeks. So just again, as a reminder to the board and the community, we have a report that our wonderful assessment and accountability team put together that surfaces based on grades, attendance, and behavior referrals, a risk factor. And it's a risk factor that gets calculated to determine what level of risk are you, and are you in jeopardy of then not fulfilling your graduation requirement as early as that first 6-week report card, then followed again the second 6 weeks, and so forth. So what you have here coming is the most recent one, which is the 3rd marking period, which actually marks the semester one, which is huge for us. And it's huge because those grades are permanent grades that then go on your transcript, right? That determine, do you have credits? Do you not have credits? Are you A through G eligible or are you not? So next slide, please, sir. So for that marking period 3, this is what was surfaced for us. A little bit over 13,000 of our students were surfaced on this report at some level of risk, either low or no risk, first alert, or at risk, right? And just as a reminder, the low or no risk students have 1 point, which means they either had 1 absence, 1 D, or 1 behavior incident, right? So about 2,899 of our students, right? Different type of response for them, right? Okay, 1 absence. Let's work on that. What happened, right? 1 full day absence. Let's figure that out. Then you have the next level, which is about 3,400 of our students who are on first alert, who had maybe 1 D and an absence, right? A combination there of an absence, a D, but no more than than 5 points here in this situation, right? So no Fs here, because the Fs warrant 7 points, right? And because we wanted to specifically show the drastic nature of the difference between getting a D, which still keeps you on track for graduation, and that F, which officially takes you off graduation, and then let alone, of course, the A through G. Unfortunately, the majority of our students land in the highest risk level here, and they represent 33% of our district population. Okay, 33%. So the next data points are just honing in on that highest risk factor. Okay, just the blue, those 6,600 plus kids. So when you look at, well, who are those kids? Who's in that blue slice? When you look at them by program, here's who they are. So 53% of students with disability were surfaced here in that at-risk category. So we have about 2,200 students with disability across our district. 53% of them are in this at-risk category. Okay. Small sample size, but 49 total justice engaged students across their district, 82% of them are in that at-risk category. Okay, so that's just to kind of show you who is in that at-risk category based on program designation. And then as well as we pulled out our highest racial groups that are represented in there, which is our Hispanic student population. 50% of them are surfaced, and our African-American population, 45% of them are surfaced. Okay. Next slide shows us the breakdown by kind of where they landed, right? And so the biggest slice, which is the yellow, is students who are, again, at that highest risk category that had 3 or more Fs and Ds, right? So about a little bit over 2,000 of our students, right? Higher risk factor, different responses that we have to provide for them. And you've heard, you remember the principals that have shared with you, they've shared this data specifically to their site. You just saw it with Principal Gutierrez and their responses, right? Their differentiated responses based on the students that have surfaced in their early warning system. I do want to point out though, that 71% of the students on here had no more than 2 Fs, right? So I know it could be, sometimes I look at this and I'm like, oh my goodness, right? We have so much work to do. There's a lot of our kids that, we're not providing the services that we need. Our system is failing our students. But there's a possibility here that we have 71% of the students that are on here had no more than 2 Fs, which means they passed. Normally they take 6 classes, right? So they're doing something in 4 of them. So how can we leverage that, and how can we see what's happening in those classes to better support the students, and how do we build those interventions for the students? And then the next piece is based on attendance. So we have, it's pretty evenly split. We have about half of our students who are at that risk factor who have 3 or more absences, which is hard, right? I know it's hard if the students aren't here, it's hard to provide those services for them. But we have the other half that are showing up to class, right? They have 2 or less full day absences, so they're coming to school. So how do we make sure that we engage with them so that they can then translate their attendance into then learning that then translates into them getting their grades and their credits. And then the last one is around behavior. 94% of our students who are at that highest risk factor have 0 behavior incidents. 0 behavior incidents. They know how to follow rules. They comply. So how do we engage with them so that we can see better outcomes in the other areas? But 94% of those 6,672 students who are at that risk factor have 0 behavior incidents. So what are the kids saying and what is our community saying, right? So when you look at, okay, well, what may be at the core of it? What may be at the core of it is how we support them for their academic learning, right? How do we support them when they're struggling? How do we support them when they're not reaching the goals that we have set for them? And so our family members, our parents, when asked, do you feel that there's high quality instruction for your students? Do you feel that we hold them to high expectations? 90% of them said, yeah, you guys do. You guys do. Our teachers said 89% of them responded favorably to yeah, we support and we help our kids academically. The school is, holds high expectations. We promote academic success. And then you ask the students. And there's a bit of a gap there, right? So the students, 69% of them across our district said, yeah, there's adults that encourage me to work hard. I feel supported. Teachers go out of their way to help me when I'm struggling academically. And so the adults in the system are saying, yeah, the help's there, we're providing it. The kids are seeing it a little bit differently, right? So interesting data point for us to look at what's happening there, right? Where is this discrepancy coming from in terms of the perception of the students versus the perception of the adults? And then the last piece that I'll share with this particular goal in terms of just not so much data, but really looking at what would be that ongoing on-time data that would help support the outcomes that we have for this. And I think Principal Gutierrez said it, that it's something that was surfaced for her school that I know I've seen across the recommendations from the WASC, and that's support with those assessments, in particular formative assessments that happen in the classroom, where a teacher doesn't have to wait till even the 6-week report to say you're failing. Right, through formative assessments, teachers can identify as soon as that day where the gaps in learning are for the students and address them and support them, as opposed to just waiting for when then I issue you the grade. So that's one way that we can do it a little bit even more timely. The other way for not only teachers, but our families to get engaged is through our Canvas, right? And so a simple grade book, right? A simple assessment and look over our Canvas for both parents, students, and teachers can help us look at what's the level of completion for assignments, what's the level of mastery and proficiency on the assignments. So when we look at goal 2 and what are those reflective pieces, right? You'll see here, and I won't go over each of them, but I really do believe that where we're going to get our greatest improvement is in the continued use of our early warning system report, our whole child data report. And I think we're also going to really get our greatest outcomes if we start looking at a systemic way for us to embed for more formative assessments across our system. The capacity and implementation, very similar to what I've showed you again. I know it's a long presentation, and I'm conscious and aware of the time that it is. So I'm gonna just kind of have you look at it on your own here. This is again my first stab at doing the measuring both the capacity and the implementation aspect of each of the goals. But you could see there just some examples of where I believe we are and what the evidence for that is. And so I'm hoping to be able to create a more systemic way of doing it, as well as a more streamlined way of being able to do this, okay? So we'll go ahead and skip to the expenditures piece for this one, because I think that is important, and that is one of those requirements I do have to share. So for goal 2, we're actually a little bit over the halfway mark in terms of our expenditures. And again, you could see similar to goal 1, there's the overarching total expenditures versus then just the LCAP dedicated expenditures. So goal 3 is our achievement of our English language learners. And so a lot of the work that is dedicated to this is around, 1, placement. we gotta place our English learners correctly, based on their level of English proficiency. And one of the greatest additions here has been, and I think I've mentioned this before, our English learner teacher on special assignment who's really working with our teachers across the district and providing professional development and support for our students with disability. You've seen the outcome data. I've shared it throughout. This is just again highlighting their particular bar. The next couple slides here, right? You've heard me say they're one of our lower performing groups. You've seen that data. Next slide. This is the early warning system, kind of their representation. And I do want to point out on this particular piece that the majority of our English learners are long-term English learners. Many of them born in the US, been here for 5 or more years. And so you could see that the majority of our English learners who even are surfaced by our marking period or early warning system are our long-term English learners. And then the graph on the side, you could see even just this semester, when you look at the first semester of 23-24, when it comes to our English learners, about 53% of them got an A, B, or C, so kind of A through G eligibility in English, 42 in math, and then 53% in science. So about half of our English learners in those core classes are earning a C or better. The panorama does something cool. It does pull out students by language proficiency. And so here, right, you've seen this in a previous slide, climate of support for academic learning, where all students were at the 69. Our English learners are just a little bit higher, right, than their peers in terms of what they believe that there's a climate for academic learning, support for academic learning, and then rigorous expectations, just a little bit higher. The one thing I'll highlight from this in terms of the reflection is that all of the data that I've shown you up to this point, I think is very indicative of the fact that we need to do a better job of really focusing on evidence-based academic interventions, not only for our English learners, but across the board. We need to be able to hone in and look at what are those evidence-based instructional practices that are really going to shift and improve our student outcomes, and how do we support our system across, all our sites to make sure that we're able to put in place a professional development needed for our teachers to be able to feel comfortable, to be able to feel skilled in being able to provide those services to a very diverse group of students that they see every single day, right? That does not go unrecognized, in conversations and dialogues as we're doing any kind of planning in ed services, that we recognize that there's a diverse set of students that our teachers see every day. And so how do we maximize support and professional development so that we can hone in on those instructional strategies that evidence tells us are going to give us the better results. So we'll jump to the expenditures pieces of this, if you don't mind, Superintendent. So here, little bit under where we should be. We're at 25%, but I can tell you that in this one of the major actions is our bilingual paras. And I know that we continue to have some vacancies in the positions of our bilingual paras. And so obviously the budget that is allocated there doesn't get used. And so we're currently at about 25%. Goal 4, our behavior responses in terms of looking at sustaining a healthy and positive school climate. Major actions here. This is where we have the action for our social workers. This is where we have our added support for Independence High School. And this is where we have our added campus monitors, just as a reminder to refresh what are some of the key actions that contribute to this. The data that we use to look at in conjunction with the California dashboards are suspensions. These are suspension data. And similar to our academic data, when you look at our behavior data, there are certain groups that are suspended at higher rates than others. And so that's what the data shows here. So of course, you could see our African-American student population for 22-23, which is last year. We did decrease, right, the suspension rate. So that's a good thing. But we're still at higher rates than the district. As a district, our suspension rate is 4%. But for African-American students, it's more than double. And then for our Hispanic student population, it's about 7%. So you could see the bars there. And then very similar outcomes when you look at it through the lens of our designated special populations. Foster youth, extremely high in terms of our suspension rate, as well as our students with disabilities. And I do just want to point out that for 22-23, when you look at it through the lens of lost instructional days, our students lost 2,862.4, right? Combination, right? If you add all the kids and all the days they lost of instructional time that was lost, right? When you look at it through that lens of them not accessing their instruction, right? But again, end of year data, how do we monitor it on a day-to-day? And that's our SHAPE data. So the next slide shows you just this year as of February last week, we're currently at about 368 unique students that have received a suspension, and they have 499. So obviously, students have been suspended on more than one occasion. And the bottom little pyramid there kind of shows you that when you look at it through the lens of a school district as large as ours, the majority of our students, once they get that one referral, it's done, right? They get the one referral, they receive the action that is appropriate for that, and then we move on. As of February, we had 27 students across the district that had 6 or more referrals, right? So a workable population that we can respond to as needed. Yes?
The suspensions are at-home suspensions. Are any of these in-house suspensions?
No, right now, these are all at-home suspensions.
And are we working on in-house? And with the
Yeah, so
in-house,
James
still
Vick
get
right
the
now is the
ADA,
only
right?
one that would have that capacity to do that because of the added staff that we provided for them. And so it's not inclusive of the SHAPE. SHAPE didn't pull that particular one. So we'd have to work now as we move forward in implementing in-school suspension, how we would go ahead and note that within our system. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then the last piece here, the qualitative data, the ones I pulled here is do they know, right? Do they have knowledge of the rules, and do they believe our discipline is fair, and then the safety. And so you could just kind of see here for yourself the different levels by each group, where you have our family members feeling that, yeah, I believe that my students are well aware of the knowledge of the rules, and I believe the discipline is fair. And so you could see the range from our family members to students. Same thing with the feeling safe, the sense of feeling safe. The highest is our families and our students, with our staff at 68%. And so here, the one thing that I'll focus on, I think we're doing a really good job of collaborating with our community-based organizations, and you've heard from the principals as they've done their presentations, the addition of our care teams, which really allows us to be able to hone in at the individual student level to respond to the needs that they have. I think what continues to be a barrier for us is our reactionary responses versus the prevention, which I think even that surfaced as part of the convening task force that was held, that we need to provide more preventative work as opposed to reactionary work. I'll skip to the expenditure piece of it. When you look at it, we're right around 41% of expenditures here, and that also had to do with the late hiring of campus monitors. Some sites didn't have their full added campus monitor until a little bit later, and then just some other vacancies that we have across our system. Our goal 5 is around chronic absenteeism. And so here essentially is how do we get our kiddos, our babies, to come to school on a consistent basis. One of the key things that we added here was our health clerks, right? Making sure to support, like if there's any barriers to students' well-being, to how do we support? And then how do we also take load off of some of our attendance secretaries that I think Mr. Pardo mentioned to you in previous sessions, that so they can focus on attendance, right? Because they were trying to do the work of a kid would come in and, hey, I need my injection for my insulin, and them having to step away. And so the addition of the health clerks has been great in supporting our attendance staff to be able to focus on those phone calls and making sure that we're responding to the needs based on attendance. And we changed system, like a technical change, but it's been super helpful in us being able to have more frequent and more accurate communication with our families around attendance. And so that's been extremely helpful. Unfortunately, when you look at a data though, our chronic absenteeism rate is higher than it is for other, for different groups. As a district, we're right around 23, almost 24%, but there's different groups, both through the lens of race and ethnicity, as well as special populations, that we need to look at how do we better engage with our students. I have to give it to Nadia Davis. She does a great job every week updating us on our data. Because again, chronic absenteeism, end of year, right? So how do we keep up and look at where we are and how we're doing? And so the next slide shows just these weekly reports that we get around like, hey, by school site, look at where your attendance is, in terms of this week, like, and sites can actually look and say, okay, what happened? Like 1 week we went to this, from this, is it, who's the student population? What report can we run to really hone in? And when you look at the next slide, you can actually pull it by kid. I took out obviously the student's name, but you could see it's okay, let me surface kids who have been absent, this from this day to this day, let me see how many days they've been, and then what's the work that needs to be due. So we don't have to wait, right, to see that chronic absenteeism. We could actually do it on a daily basis. When you look at the qualitative data, you look at, I pulled the sense of belonging, right? Because I think attendance and engagement correlates with students feeling a sense of belonging. And so unfortunately, only 33% of our students who responded to the survey felt that they belonged. And these were the two questions. I wanted to pull those out specifically for this one so you could see the two questions that were asked. How connected do you feel to the adults at your school? 24% responded favorably. And then overall, how much do you feel like you belong at your school? 42 responded. So again, qualitative data for us to be able to use to support. Again, here, I'll just highlight the new attendance system that we have that I think is going to support our work in being able to communicate with our families. But really, I have to say that we put these structures in place around attendance conferencing, but again, it varies, right? So there's this lack of consistency of what actually happens when we meet with the parents, right? Do we provide primary language support for the parents who come in? Do we engage with them in a way that is welcoming? Or, how are those conferences going? So we're actually welcoming them and not feeling that we're blaming them for something, right? That we're actually supportive. The expenditures for this one, we're right around 40% of the expenditures. And in this particular one, the overall expenditures match the contributing ones because they're all contributing actions for the attendance piece. And then finally, the last goal is our achievement of our two particular populations, which you've kind of been seeing where they land. I've been sharing with you where our foster youth and homeless youth students fall. Here we provide transportation support as part of this goal. We have dedicated counselors, school counselors, transition specialists is what we call them, to specifically target and support our foster youth, as well as our homeless youth. Right? We have our parent and community involvement specialists that work directly with them. The data you've seen, I've been sharing it throughout the presentation. Our foster youth and our homeless youth, you can see, are among the lower performing when it comes both through A through G and then graduation. They represent a higher percentage when it comes to the early warning system, right? Our homeless youth is, if you go to the next slide, 58% of all our homeless youth are at that overall risk factor in the early warning system. And then very similar, our foster youth is at 59%. So again, for this one, I think some of the things that we've done are getting us to be able to demonstrate growth in the next few years, which is in particular the services that are provided by our pieces, by our transition specialists and our social workers. But again, right, we need to do a better job of not having fragmented approaches to addressing the needs of our student. And I think the care teams are doing a phenomenal job at our sites at being able to have more cohesive approaches to that. And then finally, the expenditures for this particular goal, we're right around the 55% mark of our expenditures. And again, this one, the expenditures match because they're all contributing because it's two designated populations, foster youth and homeless youth. So coming to my end, I see that you're getting tired there. So again, right, just my intent, the approach is for me to look at the LCAP and for us as a system to look at the LCAP through an integrated lens where we're looking not only at our metrics of our performance or achievement, but at the capacity and implementation. Still working that one out. Just wanted to test it here, wanted to bring it to you. But ultimately that's the approach. Overall, in its entirety, the next slide, boss, please. For all the expenditures, we're right, 78, that one, I just want to show the final expenditures there. We're right at 40% when you look at it in totality, right? You kind of saw it go by what, but I wanted to give you this last picture that we're right at around 40% in terms of expenditures. And then some next steps for us to look at. And then finally, just the last plug. As I do this mid-year report, I'm also working on the next cycle, which is 24-25. You could see kind of the California Department of Education, their timeline. I've already started my LCAP forums. So you could see in the next slide. This year I decided to still keep some virtual sessions, right? For our community, for our staff, for our students, but I'm also doing some in-person ones. So in the next slides, you'll see each school is gonna get 2 sessions, a morning session and an evening session to try to capture as much as we want. And then I just started, and I'm telling you, I loved it, is my Student Equity Council sessions. Did James Lick today? Absolutely loved it. Being with the students, hearing from them, giving them that space to just voice their needs, their concerns, their wants, what they feel. And I have to tell you, I'll just share with you really quick. A student said, you know, Ms. Marquez, we are working in an outdated system of education. And I said, you are correct. I said, so let's fix it. Tell me your ideas. And so just some appreciations, because I do not do this alone. I don't even want to pretend that I do this alone. My entire educational services team, my classified office staff, certificated, my leadership team, all the data is Kristen King and her team. That's all her. And all the fiscal analysis aspects, that is all the business department, Sylvia Pelayo, Dr. Huntoon. And so this is really, truly a collaborative effort. And I'm really proud to be able to have the team that supports me and being able to bring this to you. So thank you.
All right, give it up.
Wow, yeah.
All right. 57 minutes and 28 seconds.
You timed it?
What was it? What was that?
57.
58 minutes and 28
Okay,
seconds.
sorry.
You nailed it.
No,
It said
excuse me,
45. I was a little
57
over.
minutes, I mean, and 20.
All right.
Thank you for that incredible presentation. And I know there's more to come as we roll out this LCAP process. Our goals are not likely to the overarching goals were not likely to change much, right?
No, not likely. No, I mean, the dashboard isn't changing, so I don't see, unless the superintendent or the board gives me a different direction or we hear something completely different from the input, I don't see our goals shifting by much. The actions,
Right.
but the goals, yeah.
Right, very good. Colleagues, any comments?
I just want to say that as very comprehensive presentation, and all you and your team took a lot of time to really put this presentation. That just got a quick question on page 73, talking about absence. I was wondering, do we have page 74 or 73? The one page that you have some absence, you categorize like a 3 absence or 2 absence. Because I look into this and I go look into that. Oh yeah, that's that page. We have 3 or more absence for marketing event.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, yes.
Yeah. Could you elaborate it? You know what, when we talk about, you know, the 1 or more F, but the other side, 3 or more absent, that's kind of correlated to each other. Because if they absent, so that's why they miss a lot of classes. Am I correct?
Yeah, if it's hard, right, when a student isn't present to be able to provide the services for them. So thank you. I totally missed this box. So what I wanted to pull out of here was just to give you an idea. So our students who are home and secure, our McKinney-Vento kids, of the students that were surfaced, right, the 58% that were surfaced, there was 436 of them had 1 or more Fs, right? So they had multiple, anywhere from 1 to all Fs in their courses. 331 had 3 or more absences, right? And there could be an overlap, to your point, Trustee Lay, where the kids who have 1 or more absences may also have 3 or more, I'm sorry, 1 or more Fs could have 3 or more absences. And then same thing with foster youth. Smaller population, which we could probably even dig a little bit deeper into them. 30 of our foster youth, 1 or more Fs, and then 34, 3 or more absences. But there could be an overlap where if we filtered it by find me both, right, like this or that, then we could have that number too.
Thank you. That's all I have.
In your outreach, the hearings, both virtual and in person, how do people become aware of these times and opportunities? That's the first part of the question. How do they become aware? And secondly, how is this framed or pitched? What do they see in the message that they do see when we send them a message?
Yeah, so actually this year, I'm so excited to have a Sergio Diaz Luna, our Director of Communications. And so we actually met for him to support in doing the outreach and the communication, the promotion of the sessions. And so he's, worked his magic to be able to get it out through all his communication means. He's created a communication toolkit for the principals so that they, for themselves, because what we have found is that a lot of times if the district invites the parents to something, it's like, well, who's the district? They're connected to their school, right? They're connected to Mount Pleasant. They're connected to James Sick. And so what Sergio has done is created communication toolkits that says the principals to send out in their newsletters, in their postings, do their calling to get their families. And so it's coming from the principal. Now, instead of this Teresa Marquez, who's that? Right? They're connected to their principal, they're connected to their staff there. And so we're doing a lot of outreach that way. It's posted on our website. He sends out the constant reminds through all the contacts. And so that's how we're
Okay,
hoping
that sounds
to.
great.
Mhm.
It's a massive document, a lot of data. And so does your team have a sense of where concerns may arise or questions might persist that you could highlight rather than just a generalized invitation, but just to say, we're aware that there may be concerns on this aspect or questions on that part, and this would be an opportunity for you to engage and what have you. Because if you leave it generalized, it's daunting. It's just such an overwhelming document. And I think most people will tune it out before they say, oh, I want to spend my time there.
Yeah, and I think Sergio's actually helped me with that. And so the hook is help us figure out how to allocate and spend $20 million.
That's a good hook.
Yes,
And beyond that, there may be, strategies or policy frameworks that you already have a feel for are areas of concern. And it just would help. I think it would draw more interest if
No,
you
agree.
highlighted that this is an opportunity to engage on areas that we are experiencing are areas of concern,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, noted. Sergio, you caught that? Thank you. Yeah. Absolutely.
Anybody else?
I want to say thank you. It's very clear that a lot of work and intentionality went into this. I particularly love how you added the qualitative alongside the quantitative to provide a more holistic view of what it is that we're talking about. And when you first mentioned the reflection, I was like, oh, yes. You got to really do some thinking alongside whatever it is that you're looking at, not just go through it like clockwork. Right, because then I think you miss some opportunities. And I think a lot of the questions and suggestions and how you're rating us in the rubric is pretty spot on. I've been visiting some schools and I'm like, yep, that's actually what I saw on the ground today. So it's really nice to see the through line and the connection. And I'm really excited for what's to come post this, because I know you're asking yourself the right questions. And now it's like, all right, let's answer them in collaboration with the community. So gracias.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I want to thank Teresa and the Ed Services. There's, when you're in Ed Services, you have to create the plan, you have to execute it, and then there's a ton of reporting. And so all the work, you're like, hey, we just went through an 84-page report. They had to create an 84-page report. That's all, calibrated to what we want and measuring it up. The second thing I want to just say, and I want to say to Ed Services and to our entire team and our district as a whole, is our state is offering us $30 million in additional funds to address the needs of our learners. Well, the state funding formula currently has our learners receiving half of the dollars of learners 25 minutes from here. Eastside students continue to Eastside continues to receive $12,000 per student, while the district 20 minutes away from here receives 18, 25 minutes away receives 21,000 per student, and 28 minutes from here receives $24,000 per student. We are appreciative of the dollars that come from the state of California to help us work with students who deserve additional supports. But we are mindful of the fact that that extra money does still not put them on par with their learners in this same county, and that must change. And I want to thank our leaders and our teachers and our staff who are doing more for students who need more with less. And just thank you for all the effort that goes into us and staying dead on to what we're going to do for students so that they can be met as they are, be known, so we can respond positively for full participation. And we can't wait for the state of California to assist that in that goal.
Thank you. I'd like to do a quick time check because we do have a couple of more short presentations. Superintendent, I don't know if you have.
I think we can keep them short, and
Okay.
I think we can stay focused.
All
And I
right.
think if we could extend maybe to 10:15, maybe even 10 o'clock, if we really discipline ourselves on comments. But I
right.
do want to remind the board that we are scheduled to go back into closed session after open session.
That's right.
People can stay online if they want to, but the only thing that will happen after closed session is just to announce any actions that were taken in the previous closed sessions.
All right, we'll check in again because we have so many short items. We'll check in again before 10. So moving along, we have nothing under 9.0 and 10.0. I will not even read this unless we have public comment.
We have
Any-
online public comment.
You have one? Okay, so I will read this statement. Members of the public may address the board on any subject not on tonight's agenda. However, the provisions of the Brown Act preclude any action. As an unagendized item, no response is required from the board or district staff, and no action can be taken. However, the board may instruct the superintendent to agendize the item for a future meeting. Any person may address the board on any item on the meeting agenda. Persons wishing to address the board may participate in person, which we have no one. And by raising your virtual hand in Zoom or by submitting comments online via the form on our website. Online comments are limited to 1,000 characters, and online Zoom comments are limited to 2 minutes. Your comment will be read out loud as part of the public meeting. So Mary, I'll ask you to read any online written comments.
Online public comment by parent Neelam Keshwani. The current practice of including class rank on the school transcript is based on unweighted GPA. This means that students who take AP courses are not given due recognition for their efforts, as these do not contribute to the higher GPA. As a result, the rank can be misleading and does not reflect the academic capabilities of students. According to the National Association for College Admission Counseling, more than half of schools do not report rank, recognizing its limitations and negative impact on admission. Studies have shown that rank can contribute to unhealthy competition and stress. It's time for the district to eliminate rank from the transcripts. Doing so would promote a healthier learning environment where students are encouraged to pursue rigorous coursework without fear of damaging their GPA. Let's advocate for an education system that values learning over ranking. In the end, we want students to have a fighting chance of getting into college rather than fighting each other to get ahead. That is the end of online public comment.
Thank you. Any Zoom comments? Thank you. Okay, moving on to 11.01. The superintendent has a report and update on the task force.
Yes, thank you very much. At our last meeting of 2023 in December, we had a number of the facilitators come back and tell us what the status of the task force that was convened around safety and positive school climate. And they identified some areas that we're lifted up in the area of more school campus security and personnel and training. They talked about engaging in proactive and preventative approaches, much of what can be the basis of discussion at our LCAP meetings. To develop clear and consistent consequences for disruptive behaviors and follow through. So, hey, let's make sure people are on that one panorama. You say, are we knowledgeable of the rules and are we enforcing them in a way that's fair and equitable, but also maintaining that positive school climate that we all want. And the other thing, the ability to engage differently with students. And we talked about that connectivity with adults. We talked about that the classroom experience that says, hey, I'm engaged here. And we've done some work, but kind of behind the scenes that I don't want to say, but with other partners during the month of January, and also are ready to bring back for another task force meeting at the end of this month. But I want to make sure that we communicate our ongoing efforts and next steps. So one thing that we've already started is analyzing a study about how to create points of single entry at our sites or multiple points of managed entry at our sites in order to make sure that there is more of a perimeter at our sites and that it's controlled. There are drawbacks to such a thing, such as egress or the ability for students to leave. It's also very much important. And also the ability to manage at a single point of entry that can lead to long lines and things like that. So we'll be working at looking at all our sites on just kind of what's preferable, single or multi, what would be their arrangement of staff to handle that. And so that's one thing in response with the task force that we'll be continuing to doing. That's fencing, gating, and processes for entry. The second thing is that we continue to engage with entities that provided for security services historically, or that, and part of that might have included conversations with San Jose Police Department. We understand that there are different feelings about officers on campus, but also understanding that there's utility in that in working with our perimeter. And so we are continuing to work with them. It is a fact that currently San Jose Police Department is short-staffed. When we ask, could you, if we were interested, able to have a school resource officer that we would train at our sites, they simply say, we couldn't staff it and not in the short term. So it's looking perhaps to engage in conversations about how we maintain a safe perimeter within our own ability to supervise and train folk within our campus and how we might partner with other outside entities to maintain that perimeter. And those conversations are ongoing but positive. The other thing, we're looking to identify and engage in proactive and preventive approaches through the local accountability plan. So, and those discussions, those that we're worried about, okay, there's students that are vaping or going into the bathroom for behaviors. What can we put in for students like that? For students that are feeling disengaged academically or interpersonally, what is there for them? And how do we utilize our existing LCAP that's written in there, or how we might add or change? Please participate in that. I know some sites are already talking about what they could do different for ninth graders. Fantastic. How they might engage with students that have those 6 or more or 5 or more referrals. Fantastic. So we're looking for that individual site participation as well as common assurances across our district. We talked about clear and consistent consequences for disruptive behaviors and follow through. Absolutely. We continue to work on that. And I want to thank members of the community who have noticed a difference in their schools, a palpable difference, and have emailed me and said, hey, it looks like with just a few adjustments, it doesn't have to be anti-student for us to communicate that we're clear on enforcing behaviors that are good for the student and good for our students as a whole. One thing that is different and will be the topic of our task force meeting in late February is we are looking, as we looked at this and gathered all the feedback, that there are other elements of safety like emergency response, safety at events in the evening. And so we are looking to, and the other thing that came out of the task force is that sites, while we want common assurances across all our sites, there are differences between sites. And how do we get the information to kind of calibrate a different response and work with safety teams at sites that they take on that work going forward. And so there we will be conducting site-based comprehensive safety audits regarding items identified by the task force and also beyond, like I mentioned previously. And as part of that, the task force again will meet later this month to continue to finalize that site audit planning, but also to define, if necessary, long-term groups or long-term items that we might move from a task force to more of an ongoing safety committee and keep our eye on the data and our feedback year to year. So thanks to all those that contributed, thanks that are working every day towards improved relationships, quality responses to wanted and unwanted behaviors, and also the thoughts that we've already gotten from different sites about what they could do individually for the end of this year and going into next year. So that's the update, and there'll be more coming soon.
Thank you. Colleagues, any comments? Okay, very good. 11.02, discussion, consideration, or action regarding selection or appointment of the Board Audit Committee members, excuse me. So I'll turn this over to Van Ley, who is our Board Audit Committee Chair.
For the audit committee, we have two applicants who gonna apply again. And I believe that we want to, invite them to serve on the board. But we're gonna have to have an audit committee chair that we comprised of two board trustees serve as chair and vice chair, and 3 public meeting and 1 alternate member. The audit committee has two vacancies to fill right now, 1 public member and 1 alternate member. And we have, I believe that Mr. Navani as the public member, and John Renke would be alternate member. And we just want to get the approval.
Okay, so.
The recommendation is before you, and we're asking for you to accept that recommendation.
Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Yes. Okay, moved by Herrera, second by Lay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous, thank you. Okay, moving on to 11.03, discussion and or action regarding the 2024 California School Boards Association, CSBA, Delegate Assembly Election. Mr. Vanderzee?
In this case, it's recommended that the Board of Trustees vote for no more than 4 candidates, no more than, doesn't have to be 4, for submission of the official 2024 Delegate Assembly ballot for Region 20 to CSBA. And the delegates that are seeking that are listed below, and you have the option to suggesting 1, 2, 3, or up to 4 delegates for the ballot.
I'm sorry, do we have a procedures how we do this? In the past, we kind of randomly, someone make the motions and we just simply, one way is we each can just write a name or up to 4 names and then we just add up. That would be the more appropriate, but that might take some time. And I think some of my colleagues rather want to go home. So any preference?
I think Isabel, Jody, Jessica. I know they're very active.
Yeah, everybody knows Jessica, so.
Yeah,
So currently being brought forward as a potential nomination for Isabel,
Jody.
Julius Flemmerich, Jody Muirhead, and
and
Jessica Spicer.
Yes.
Are
They
there
have-
any other, before I ask if there's anybody who objects to those 3 names, is there anybody that'd like to add a name?
I'd like to add Vaishali also. Sir K?
Good to me.
Okay. Is there anybody that objects to these 4 names? Currently, we have Isabel, Jody, Jessica, and Vaishali. Okay. the interest of being strategic, would anybody like to suggest less than four of these names to the ballot? All right.
If one of my colleagues is on it, I might be willing to open.
Yeah,
but
we leave it
since
just
none
at
of my
that one
colleagues is
name,
on it,
yeah.
so I'm good. I'm good.
Absolutely.
That's solid.
Well,
Game
next
knows-
year.
Go, Brian.
Okay,
That's
good.
strategy.
That's absolutely right. Game knows game. So right
Maybe an
now,
exception for next year. I don't know.
right now, there is a suggestion that we nominate Isabel Ubez Flamerich, Jody Muirhead, Vaishali Sirke, and Jessica Spicer. Is there a motion to?
I move.
Okay, I heard trustee Chavez and then Brian, you want a second? Okay. Okay. Moved by Chavez, second by Doe, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. So we're going to check in because I really don't think we're going to wrap this up by 10, wishful thinking. We have, let's see.
We have our,
Two short presentations and just a couple of items to vote on. So
I think we could make those presentations, if staff will allow me, if I can take them, I think we could probably do them in about 90 seconds. See it. And if you have more questions, they're available to answer. Is that fair? Okay. So I'm still saying 10:15 and then we exit for.
all right, 10:15. Oh, so I need a motion for 10:15.
Second.
Okay, moved by Lay, second by Chavez. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Noting that we have one trustee, Brian Doe, out of the room. So we will wrap up by 10:15 is the goal. So now we're moving on to, let's see, item 1301, which is our standard item to approve contracts over 25,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, I heard a motion by Herrera, second by Lay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. 1302, discussion or action to approve the awards of bids and requests for proposals for general purchasing.
Sorry, it's not unanimous. Brian is still out of the room.
Oh, Brian's still out of the room. Yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, four and one absent. Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, we are, 1302. Okay. Yes, so I think we just need a motion on this one.
For approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Chavez, second by Herrera. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So then again, that is 4 ayes with 1 absent. Okay, 1303, discussion and action to approve the 24-25 transportation plan. Dr. Cantu?
Before I get into that, I would just like to recognize for Ed Services, you have no more items and you did a lot. And I know there's something else you have to get to, so would like to invite you the opportunity to leave. Fantastic. Assembly Bill 181 and Assembly Bill 185 provided reimbursement funding for school districts. And at 60% of the costs and expenditures of the program from the year before. So what's before us tonight is essentially a plan that we must show to you, and it is here for the public, for you to approve that we can submit. And what this will do is allow us to receive up to $4.7 million next year to apply to a program that, if we're speaking honestly and directly, typically costs the district more than was typically budgeted, and it takes monies out or other that could be attended for other items from the general fund. So we're asking you to apply or to approve this plan for us to apply that would allow us to receive potentially up to $4.7 million in compensatory payment or reimbursement, excuse me, for next year's budget.
So motion to
Can I
authorize.
enthusiastically move
Yeah.
to get free money?
Yes, you can.
That's the motion then.
Okay, we got a motion by Chavez, a second by Doe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is.
Okay, and I just want to give
5-0.
special thanks to Julie Kasperger and the team. They did a great job in putting a plan together. And learned what was possible and put in what was possible. And that's going to do good things for creating greater access for students, but also helping the district's budget. And like I said, in an area that typically has taken from the general fund.
And thank you for sticking around.
She didn't have to come up, right?
Yeah. Okay,
All right.
nothing under 14. 15, we're going to move on to 1502, which is our standard item, bond and capital projects over 50,000.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Doe, second by Herrera. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. 1503, discussion and or action to approve award of bids and request for proposals for bond capital projects.
For approval.
I had actually asked
I-
for a brief presentation on this
I
because.
thank you
it's
for
a
moving
little
for approval,
complicated.
but in the interest of the public, I do just want to spend some time on this and make sure
There's a couple of things involved here.
there's a
yes.
couple of things involved, and I just want to make sure that as a group and public, we are aware historically kind of where we are, and so that there's not confusion on this. We have had a facilities master plan, which has guided our projects, our interactions with sites, budgeting, allocations, that we did in, help me, 2017? Yeah, 2017. Awesome. All right. So 2017, we went through a process of selecting someone to help us in that, but then we did our own decision makings along the way. We feel that as we're at this phase in our history, and Julio brought this before you, I want to say September, to bring to you that we wanted to go out and find another firm that can help us with the planning going forward. So while this title says Facilities Master Plan, it probably should say Facilities Master Planning for a Plan, right? So this doesn't mean you're taking action on future projects, future allocations, or new work. What this is recognizing that we are obligated to have a master plan, and there's components to that there's minimum standards involved, that there's a process of analysis, and it starts with you all in setting setting a vision and where we are in time. In our last Measure Z, we built a lot of awesome, bright, new, cool things for students and really making them almost look like universities and getting that feel. We might be in an age in this with Measure N monies that we have to start looking at infrastructure. And with some of our buildings, 70, 60, 50, 40 years old, and what we learned with these, with the weather and good things like that, that we might have to dedicate more for infrastructure. We went out to bid to help somebody help us do the analysis, bring it to us so we can do that planning. We talked before about organizing a schedule, collecting the data, linking what we think is coming, developing a strategy, and then bringing a document for you for ultimate approval. To that plan, we went through after your approval in September and started a request for proposal process. We had under 242. We sent out to over 674 firms. Many were interested, many called back, many requested more information. Ultimately, five vendors submitted a proposal. I want to let you know that in our initial, when we went out, number of our bidding partners struggled to interface with the technology of our Planet bids, and at no fault of the district. And so what we said, in fairness, we're going to reissue. We went out for a second bid process. As a result of that, we have landed with the firm that's coming for you tonight for an approval of that bid. What I want to make sure that that I make clear is that originally there were some original dates along the way for this planning process. Where we are now is if we can approve this awarding of the bid, then we'll start kickoff meetings in February and in March. The progress meetings will happen through March and August with the board to keep you abreast of the situation. There'll be meetings with school site councils. We'll draft up presentations about what our next phase are, what the data says, what we're looking to do in terms of allocation, and then would bring you a draft report in August. That's was to SUP's council, another draft report, and then finally bring it to you in December of next year for approval to say, okay, now let's execute a plan going forward. So tonight you are not adopting a plan. We are adopting to award a group to help us with the planning process that will end with your approval in December of 2024. That was longer than 90 seconds, and I apologize.
It's December of next year, and I was going to question you.
What I said, December 2024, next school year, as an educator's brain works.
Oh, okay. Can you put that, yeah, could you put that slide back up, what, that you just had up? Okay, so the kickoff meeting would be now in week and a half, something like that. Who attends that?
So our kickoff meeting will involve various stakeholders that will start asking the question, who should the stakeholders be at the table going forward? So it will emanate out in terms of gathering the groups, and then also who should attend at sites, what are the entities, and all of that will give input for you to then take action and go, yeah, we're still going to work through school site councils or not. Those are all the things that we've traditionally performed. We're not making those decisions tonight, but all that will come through this planning process.
So what you will gather all those ideas about who should even be. So part of this process is to create the structure for creating the plan. But before the structure is even created, the board will have an opportunity to input.
We'll have input along the way, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So on this process is also identified in board policy 7110 on what we're.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Questions. What's the approximate price range? I don't know the right words, but of the size of anticipated cost of this RFP process of this bid. What we're looking at here approximately.
Like on the one that we're bringing forward to the board was 388,000, I believe.
Good. Thank you. So then we just, and there were two parts to this. Wasn't there something about Foothill in this same item? Or no?
Separate project. Is that?
I thought when I read the agenda, I thought there were two items that one was related to the master plan process and the other was actually an item.
The second item here is number 2, and if Julio, if you want to come up and speak to this, this is the project that's to begin at Foothill. And you can see that there was a bid process for that as work. This is for the 6,500 square foot building in Building G. And it's kind of addressing the kitchen issues and food service. This has been a pre-approved project by the board from the
Yes, that's
previous
correct.
plan. And this was the bid process to award it to, I believe it was Beals.
So this section is for approval of contracts, and the first contract for the master plan is with a firm named Perkins Eastman. This for Foothill is with a contractor named Beals Martin. So this is approved, two separate things, two separate contracts. Yeah, we're ready to go.
Okay, so this is the contract to has the building been designed or this is to do
Yes.
all of that?
Building's been designed. This is a construction contract with Beals Martin. The building's been designed and is ready to go. Ready to be built. DSA approved, all of that.
So I don't remember seeing any like drawings of this. I think we used to do that, like bring drawings to the board and.
We haven't done that, but we can make room for it and do that. But we haven't done that in the past. What we have is taken the direction and concept of a project and then move forward with working with the school site and whatnot to get buy-in and approval for what we're going to then build on.
Yeah.
But bringing projects back prior to DSA approval or somewhere in schematic design, we have not done that all projects.
And that could very much be an outcome of the prior contract we've approved in part one, but in the facilities master planning piece about what the um, steps in communication with the board and the public can be, when, at what phases, and the nature of that communication as well.
I think that's useful because of the nature of the funding of this, that, here we are doing the public's business in public, and
Yeah.
for them to be able to see images of here's what we're planning, here's what it looks like, here's how it's evolving.
Mhm.
I think it's really useful to, and for the board too, like if I run into the grocery store and someone wants to know how something, what is going on, it's good for us to know as well. So
Yeah,
I
great,
think that's useful.
great.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we need a motion on these whole item altogether?
Tino 3 is one item.
Right.
Barbara, I just want to make a quick comment, I think just in case my colleagues or member of the public might have missed some of the numbers. You sent out 670 bid, a request for proposal or bid. You received 5 back, and the price of the, am I correct? 5?
That's correct. We can also tell you, just based on the application that we're using, that 41 people either viewed or downloaded the bid document as well. And then
And-
ultimately 5 bid in a formal process.
What I want all of us to acknowledge and understand is how incredibly this is what the team do all the time, constantly, for multiple projects after projects. And on a single building, there are multiple vendors that the team has to go out and have to get 3 bid or 5 bid, a certain number of bid, and that's incredibly difficult that is on a regular basis. And I just want to take the opportunity to acknowledge that, how hard and the effort that the team have done. Given the size of 670 sent out, 5 came in, and this is not a small dollar amount, like 10, 20K, 388, and yet it takes that much effort to get that amount of bid. So I want to acknowledge and send my gratitude to you and your team.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for that. Yes, agreed. Okay, so I have a motion by,
Gentlemen's on my right, the younger man to my right.
okay, we have a motion by Herrera, a second by Doe. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Okay, we are on the consent calendar, and we are, just a hair's breadth from our goal here. Okay, I have a motion by Lay, second by Herrera. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the consent calendar passes unanimously. Moving quickly to 2102, we do have a written report to receive on the district's goal of workforce diversity. That is available for your perusal. 22 is future agenda items. Anyone need to add anything quickly? Okay, moving on. Then we'll move to 23, which is board comments. And I will start to my left with Trustee Chavez.
All right, thank you. I just want to say thank you to Piedmont and YB for hosting me today. Started my school visits as a follow-up to seeing the school presentations, and it's been really cool to hear, like, on the ground, what does it look like, and what the needs are. Got to visit some great teachers today, learned about some PDs based on the focus areas. Like, I want to say Piedmont specifically is focused today, I think, had PD on inclusion and ELD strategies, which was awesome to hear. At YB, I was able to engage with some students that were prepping to take the LPAC test. So that was really great. So just thank you, principals, for welcoming me into the school community. It's awesome to be there. It's what gives me energy. So, yeah.
Trustee Lay?
Battery. All right, okay. First of all, I would like to say thank you, everyone. We start with the New Year's. Happy New Year's and lunar calendar year. Second thing is I attend a work Tool for Future, and I on a board executive, and I'm really interested. So if Work to Future program could partner with our East Side to help our homeless students as well as foster students. So when I get to that page, and we can do some report. And I probably would want to gonna come visit in the next couple weeks to one of the school that I want to take the time. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Doe?
I just want to take the moment to appreciate how much I enjoyed the Stampalooza along with all the school boards and of course our wonderful superintendent down on my right. And I want to congratulate all the winners. There's a couple of schools which is absolutely an amazing job. Santa Teresa is one of them. And we did it at my old school, Independent High School. So thank you. And I hope I receive more of my colleagues in future years. Again, also, chúc mừng năm mới.
I have no
Ferrer? Okay, thank you. I have no comment. Superintendent?
Thanks for everybody hanging in there today and keep working for it and understanding that for our employees, the CERP might cause some, what do I want more at this point in my life? And we please, that we want to make sure that you take an opportunity to get all the expertise that will become available to you through this process to make that decision. But again, looking at our data and that graduation data across our district, I want to thank everybody's efforts for getting higher than pre-COVID levels. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And legal counsel, 2401?
We're going to have to wait on 2401 as the board is going to return to closed session.
Oh, right.
And so we'll let the public know that we're going to go to closed session. When we come back, we will both report any action taken in closed session and then adjourn.
That's correct. So it is now 10:15 exactly, and the board will resume recess to closed session. Okay, we are resuming the end of our meeting with the report out from closed session. I will turn it over to our superintendent.
Thank you. Closed session actions to report. Number one, closed section item 2.02. The board unanimously approves the stipulated agreement to an expulsion for student 23-24-008. Closed session item number two, closed session item 2.08. In the matter of the appeal by a certificated administrator to the findings in an investigation report pursuant to board policy and administrative regulation 1312.1. The board took an action to deny the appeal and uphold the investigative findings and determination, with board members Cortese, Lay, Chavez, and Herrera voting in support and board member Doe opposed. There are no further actions to report.
Okay, and with that, we'll just remind people that our next board meeting will be March 7th, and at 11:02 p.m. we adjourn this meeting.